Path to Mediterranean Hegemony. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26, Conspiracy. The mud can't support the wall. Ferdinand commented on the opposition. Under the government's perverse rule, the opposition party did not organize the masses to overthrow the government, but wasted its limited strength on violent assassinations, and used violence to suppress violence, which only aroused the resentment of the people. In 1888, most of the Sofia people sympathized with the opposition party and expressed dissatisfaction with the government. Then in 1889, everyone's popular base was pulled to the same level. Disgust. An outraged Stam's cabinet once again declared martial law across the country. The secret police have been expanded again and distributed to various places. There is revenge for revenge, and there is grudge. The rapidly expanding secret police became a mixed bag of good and bad, abused their powers, retaliated, and fished the people, causing public grievances to boil over. What do we do now? Stam's lackeys are crazy, arresting people everywhere. And if this goes on, we will be exposed sooner or later. Petko Kirilov, one of the leaders of the pro-Russian faction, let's stage a coup. Proposed Major Poniza, conservative army supporter. No, despite the government's perverse actions, the liberals still control the army. Our people are too weak, Weber, Democrat, objected. Okay, now we have no choice. Stambulov wants our lives, only to the death. Hope God bless us. Petko Kirilov did final decision. Maybe it's not that bad. Major panic seeing everyone's hairy eyes. He sneered and said, don't forget, Sofia also has a royal guard. Our Grand Duke Ferdinand has been expanding since he took the throne, and now there are more than 3,000 people. It's gone. Wybit said coldly, yes, but so what? Our Grand Duke doesn't seem to be interested in politics. Otherwise, why would he allow the cabinet to act recklessly? The most important thing is, why does he support us? Don't forget that many of us are his opponents. Major Panica said confidently, that may not be the case. The cabinet has already turned against the Grand Duke for raising agricultural taxes. Does our Grand Duke really hold no grudges at all? And everyone, we used to oppose him Ferdinand's succession as Grand Duke, so we are naturally enemies. But now it's an established fact, we can't oust him, and there's no need to oppose his succession. The fundamental contradiction between the two sides no longer exists. Does Archduke Ferdinand want to hold real power? Then why is he expanding the guards? No matter what, no one in Bulgaria will be crazy to attack the palace, right? Major Panica, you're right, but if Ferdinand is in power, aren't we all in vain? I don't think he'll put us in power if we kill the Liberal Party. Weber asked rhetorically. Milner, I love People's Party, smiled and said, no, this can't be done by our Grand Duke. Don't forget, everyone, now in Bulgaria, except for the Liberal Party, that is, our people, other political forces are not yet acclimate. You People's Party, of course it doesn't matter. Our Conservative Party is the main force against Ferdinand. It's no wonder that it is not suppressed. Weber said yin and yang strangely. The conspiracy of the opposition was no secret to Ferdinand at all. Their internal disputes were quickly passed to Ferdinand through the inside. Silly, Ferdinand said with a sneer at this time, they are still fighting for power and profit, and they are completely a mob. Even if the spoils are to be divided, it will be after the overthrow of the government. If it fails, everyone will have to play and start fighting for dominance now. If it weren't for the need for them to attract the attention of the government, Ferdinand sent someone to help clean up the situation, and now the opposition party has been eliminated. A group of rabble, actually still thinking of plotting against him. The enemy of the enemy, not necessarily friends, most likely still enemies. This sentence is a good description of the current situation in Bulgaria. The government of liberals and the opposition of conservatives and Democrats are now targets for Ferdinand to clean up. Every man is innocent, but he is guilty. Ferdinand never made a move, but planned to kill with a knife. Let the conservatives anger Stam's cabinet and force the cabinet to kill. The reason is the huge amount of property seized by the government. Stam's cabinet intends to use this money to complete the 5-year plan, which coincides with Ferdinand. If you come out now to make things right, then the huge sum of money that has been confiscated will have to be returned. What about the funds needed for the next 5-year plan? Ferdinand is not a virgin, and he has no intention of paying the money himself, so he can only swallow this windfall. Only if the property owner is dead can he legally confiscate this huge sum of money. The obstacles to Ferdinand's reforms can also be cleared up. You must know that the arrested people include conservatives, Democrats, pro-Russians, and radical nationalists, as well as a large number of feudal landlords and agricultural capitalists. Throughout history, any reform is to bleed. Those with vested interests will definitely not let go willingly, and blood and rain are inevitable. Now it's better to use Stam's cabinet to take the blame. In 1888, the Great Purge campaign of Stam's cabinet benefited Ferdinand a lot, and his assets expanded rapidly. Ferdinand himself had integrity, did not do anything wrong, strictly abide by the nobility, and did not bully the weak. However, among his lackeys, Ferenc colluded with the intelligence chief Fuu, in order to fight against his competitors, framed and helped fuel the flames. He did not do less work. Many capitalists had their properties confiscated and went to prison in a confused way. Then they acquired a large number of high-quality assets from the government at a low price. Of course, there are many people who do this, but they are not as neat and tidy as they are, leaving no hidden dangers. A large number of capitalists were imprisoned, and the market did not cause major turmoil. Your Excellency the Grand Duke, we have basically monopolized the food processing in Bulgaria, and there are only some small family-style workshops left, which are no longer a cause for concern. Wayland reported to Ferdinand excitedly. Ferdinand listened to Wayland's report, nodded with satisfaction, and said, "Yeah, but still, be careful, don't let people find out. The market has been monopolized by us." Wayland said confidently, "Don't worry, Your Excellency, we still adopt the old method. Processing factories in different places produce different brands. And on the bright side, we occasionally create some frictions, which will not let people suspicious." "Well, not bad. You still have to keep an eye on the international market. What's the matter? Do a good job in technological innovation to increase our competitiveness," Ferdinand said again. Bulgaria's largest export industry at present is the export of agricultural products. At the same time, it is also the industry with the most development potential in Bulgaria at this stage. It is impossible for Ferdinand to ignore it. Historically, the export of agricultural products has always been Bulgaria's largest source of foreign exchange. In 1911 alone, Bulgarian exports of agricultural products amounted to 129.4 million levs. The total export value of Bulgaria at that time was only 184.6 million levs, and agricultural exports accounted for 70%. But now the Bulgarian industry has not yet developed, and the proportion of agricultural exports is higher, accounting for 9 layers of total exports. In 1888, Bulgaria's annual export volume of agricultural products was only more than 40 million levs, and there was great room for development. This is only a primary product. If the agricultural products are processed and then put into the international market, this number can continue to increase. Chapter 27, Undercurrent. Your Excellency, Volvo supermarkets have now spread all over the major cities in Bulgaria. However, due to the domestic economic downturn, the turnover is not very high, and there are even a few small cities, but they can only break down. The estimated profit is not comparable. Vienna, Franz said in a depressing tone. Ferdinand smiled and said, "Hee, Franz, don't be impatient, we have to be patient. When Bulgaria's economy develops, the money won't come rolling in." "Okay, Your Excellency the Grand Duke, don't worry, I know what to do." Franz immediately put away his negative emotions and made a package to Ferdinand. "Yeah." Ferdinand nodded with satisfaction, and then turned his attention to Habit. Habit said worriedly, "Your Excellency the Grand Duke, The machinery factory has just been put into operation. Now the problem is that we can't find a market for our machinery, except for our own purchases. Basically there are not many orders. Bulgarians are panicking now. Capitalists have no desire to invest and build factories, and the future prospects are not optimistic. There are still many people who have placed orders, but have not come to pick up the goods. However, the sales of spare parts are good, and they are very welcome. Well, since that's the case, let's focus on the spare parts market. Take advantage of the fact that the international capital has not noticed it. First seize the market in the Balkans, and then expand to Eastern Europe. Ferdinand thought for a while and said greed is indeed human nature. Originally Ferdinand was a plan to promote the industrial development of Bulgaria. Now it has become a state monopoly. No matter how he painted it, it couldn't change the fact that he made a profit from it. From a resource point of view, a monopoly is indeed the best option for Bulgaria, especially the heavy industry. The mineral-poor Bulgaria has no choice at all. Okay, Your Excellency, don't worry, we have no competitors in the Balkans at the moment. Habit said confidently. Ferdinand nodded in satisfaction, and then said, well, let's talk about the situation in Bulgaria now. Fuhu said confidently, yes, Your Excellency the Grand Duke. At present, Bulgaria is still calm on the surface. The liberals have the upper hand and control the government. Under the pressure of the government, other political forces such as the Conservative Party and the Democratic Party have been suppressed. But this situation will soon be broken. The Liberal Party has pushed the opposition to the limit, and they have to fight to the death in order to survive! Mr. Petko Kirovlev, how is the Russian contact? Bonnie asked anxiously. Don't worry, gentlemen. St. Petersburg hates Stam's dictatorship. They have promised to support us, and they have provided us with an interest-free loan of 1 million levs. Petko Kirovlev confidently say of course, irrelevant issues are also omitted. For example, after the successful coup d'état, the new government will fully turn to Russia in terms of diplomacy. Another example is ... In Petko's opinion, it's all trivial and irrelevant, and there's no need to say it. Anyway, he's a pro-Russian faction, and he doesn't think it's any bad. Everyone here is not a fool, and of course they know that there is no free lunch in the world. Russians are not philanthropists. They have to ask for something. Now everyone is a grasshopper on a rope, and no one can escape. Let's talk about overthrowing the government first, and don't care what the price will be. Great, with the support of the Russians, our new government will be established, so you don't have to worry about being isolated internationally. Poniza said happily. Major Panica, you're too happy to be happy. We'll talk about these things when we succeed. Now the hawks of the dictatorship government are catching people everywhere, and will be exposed if we're not careful. Dragan Chuikov, Democrats, say calmly maybe, we can do another big operation to divert their attention and create conditions for the uprising. Vasil Radoslav, the future leader of the famous Radoslavs. Oh, God, are you going to do another assassination? But now they are already frightened, and there is no chance at all. Asked Major panicking surprised. Vasil Radoslav said confidently, Major Poniza, you are right. But if there is an assassination, do we have any other way? The cowards in the cabinet are now almost like tortoises. Naturally, we have no chance to start. But what about their families? Are they not so strict? Oh, God, Mr. Vasil, you are not possessed by the devil. No, please come and see the priest. It must be evil. Kondanslav, Democrat, couldn't believe it. Say facing the surprised eyes of everyone, Vasil Radoslav said indifferently, no, I'm fine. Don't you think this is a good idea? Only by angering the dictator Stam will he make mistakes, then furious revenge to provide cover for our next move. Kondanslav said hesitantly, but, God, to attack innocent people is beyond our bottom line. Vasil Radoslav said in a high spirit, gentlemen, it is worth paying a small price for Bulgaria! In the early morning of the Sofia Palace, Ferdinand had just had breakfast when the Minister of Education, Chekhov, broke in. Your Majesty, what happened to the school? Chekhov said anxiously. Ferdinand's expression changed and he asked, what? Chekhov said nervously, The police surrounded the school just now to arrest the anti-government elements, and now they are confronting the guards. Ferdinand said in surprise, "How is it possible? Isn't the school closed? How can there be anti-government elements?" Chekhov said with a wry smile, "Your Excellency, the students do stay in the school every day, but the teachers can come and go freely. Many of them are dissatisfied with the government's actions. Many people have published articles criticizing the government. In addition, many of the arrested are their relatives and friends, and they should be able to do it for harboring suspects." Ferdinand nodded and said, "I understand. You go over with a company of guards and tell the police, I have taken over the school, I will handle the rest, and come to me if you have any problems." "Yes, Your Excellency, I'll go right away," Chekhov said happily, and ran out as soon as he finished speaking. Ferdinand knew that it was estimated that the Minister of Education's handwriting was indispensable, otherwise, even if he asked for help, he would not be so anxious. He did not intend to delve into it, and Ferdinand, the Minister of Education of Chekhov, was still satisfied. Work conscientiously and responsibly, and the most important thing is to have taken refuge in. Bulgaria is really not big, and there are not many literati and writers. Although they have different political views, they have some friendship with each other. Now that Chekhov has a friend involved, it is only natural for him to help. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28. Bulgarian University. Alexander Kondinsnov asked in a panic, "What should we do now? How long can the school guards stop them?" "I'm sorry, I have troubled you. I didn't expect these eagle dogs to have such smart noses. I'll go out and surrender now. After all, this is the only university in Bulgaria. As long as they catch me, they..." Kavanlev said apologetically. Elko interrupted him and said loudly, "No, my friend, you can't go out. It's in their hands and you're done." "You're right. This is the only university in Bulgaria, and the Falcons don't dare what to do with us. You hide here first. I'll go out and find a solution, and I'll be back soon. Don't worry, my friend, don't forget that the principal of the school is still the Grand Duke. They don't dare to mess around." After speaking, Elko quickly walked out and asked someone to discuss countermeasures. The same scene happened in other parts of the campus. When Elko came to the office, a lot of people had gathered in it. Obviously, there are a lot of people who have done the same thing as him and are now busy trying to figure out how to deal with it. Elko, you came just in time. Come and think of a way together, how to deal with the gang of eagle dogs outside. His friend Clinton interrupted his thinking at this moment. Adolf Kohl came in and said, "Okay, gentlemen, please be quiet." After seeing the silence of the crowd, he continued, "The Sofia police have provided us with a list of suspects, and they have real evidence, and they want us to hand over the more than 100 people above. Now I will send it to you to see and verify, then let's talk." Elko looked at the list carefully with an uneasy mood, and when he saw a name, his face turned pale. At the same time, everyone's faces were different. Some were fortunate, some were ashen. Seeing that it was almost time, Adolf Kohl continued, "Okay, everyone has read it. Is there anything you want to say?" "Mr. Kohl, this is total slander. How could they be a mess?" "Right. It's all slander!" Everyone excitedly said that the scene fell into chaos, and Elko also followed suit. "Okay, everyone, for God's sake, give me peace first." Kohl scolded sharply, "Whether they are slanderers, we can discuss this issue slowly in the future. Now the Sofia police are illegally besieging the school. I suggest protesting to them in the name of the school and asking them to evacuate immediately. In addition, for the questions raised by the police, our school should organize a self-examination, and those who violate the school rules will be punished severely. As for how to deal with it, after the final investigation results come out, I will report it to the principal to make a decision. I have already reported the matter today to the Ministry of Education." Everyone's face was red and white for a while, And it was really beautiful. Ailko's mood was also ups and downs, sometimes happy and sometimes worried. After a moment of silence, Adolf Cole said, "If you have no objection, let's protest to the police now." Everyone reacted immediately. "No matter what to do in the future, let's get through this disaster first." He got up quickly and rushed to the school gate. What happened in recent months, they are very clear. All the suspects taken away by the police have never come out. On Christmas Day a few days ago, there was a horrific assassination. Everyone knows that the police are busy catching the murderer. Once they have something to do with this matter, it must be the worst. Even those who did not participate were frightened, who knew if the police would arrest them as accomplices. Now the top government officials are going crazy, and they might just throw everyone together. Seeing that there was no response in the school for a long time, in the cafe opposite the gate, in the box on the second floor, a police officer leaned over and asked, "Chief, do we want to send someone to rush in?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man's expression changed slightly. He snarled, "Shut up, James, you idiot. Didn't I tell you, keep it a secret? I'm not here today, and you're in charge here. You're yelling like this, you don't know I'm here." "Yes, you're not here," said the constable named James, bending over, smiling and lowering his voice. The middle-aged man said sternly, "Fuck it, don't look at this place, the only university in Bulgaria, the principal of the Grand Duke himself. In case of conflict with the suspect, the baby inside will be killed. A few, what do you pay? Then let's just surround ourselves like this." But it's not the way to go. It's not easy to communicate with the top of the head because it's so forbidden. Police officer James said with a frown. "Wait a little longer. If there is no result at noon, you can bring someone to rush in. Remember to tell the people under your command to be smart and not cause trouble." The middle-aged man asked. "Don't worry, Chief. Don't worry about my work. When did something go wrong, I'll be careful. As long as the suspects inside don't resist, nothing will happen." Constable James assured the middle-aged man was very satisfied with the performance of the police officer and promised, "Well, do it well. Once this is done, you will be Sheriff James." "Hey, someone came out. They're all there. Go ahead and deal with it. Remember to be polite, my teacher's among them. I'll dodge first." The middle-aged man left without waiting for James to answer. Seeing the middle-aged man exit the cafe through the back door, James took a deep breath, slowly went downstairs and walked slowly towards the school. The corners of his mouth moved slightly, and he scolded in a voice that only he could hear, "Damn it! I was born and died for you, and now you are using me as cannon fodder. Things that have lost their conscience, and know that your teacher is also among them. God knows how many big bosses in the government, teachers and classmates are among them. Are those old masters easy to provoke? They come to rely on the old and sell the old. What can I do to them? Damn it, I should have given them some rumors if I knew it earlier." Don't take credit for this hot work. It doesn't matter if you can't catch anyone, but you mustn't have a fight. If I accidentally hurt the Grand Duke's baby bump, I'll be miserable. God bless. It's best to have a secret road in the school. Let all the chaos run away. Let me go and for a walk smoothly. So you are good. I am good, everyone. For the 100 or so meters, James walked for 10 minutes, and he was walking too fast. Seeing James coming over, an old teacher who was about 60 years old snarled and scolded, "James, you bastard, get out of here. You dare to surround the school with people. Who gave you the courage?" James only felt that his legs were weak and he had to touch an acquaintance. He still remembers the scene of going to school more than 10 years ago. He was the old gentleman's student at the beginning. Because of his poor family background and the support of the old gentleman, he barely finished middle school and became a policeman. I didn't expect that after more than 10 years, it would be such a scene to meet again. James' eyes couldn't help moistening. He walked over to the old man, bowed respectfully, and shouted, "Hello, Mr. Rolka." Chapter 29, Handling. Seeing that his student had become the hawk dog of the dictatorship, Olka was in a very bad mood. He didn't accept James' greeting, and said with a sneer, "I'm fine. You've brought people over to arrest me. How can you be? Is it?" James is very embarrassed, and the current situation makes him very embarrassed. The angry old gentleman on the opposite side made him in a dilemma. On one side is the task above, and on the other side is his benefactor. After completing the task, he has to break with his benefactor, which makes his conscience uneasy. Taking into account the kindness, his career is over, and the struggle for more than 10 years will turn into water. James' indecision immediately aroused the morale of the teachers. It turned out that these police officers were not as brutal as the legends. They turned their attention to the police officers, searched for familiar targets, and soon someone achieved victory. Halko found a target, walked up to a young police officer, and scolded, "Raoul, you bastard, get me home now." Raoul defended, "But Uncle Alek, I'm on a mission. If I leave now, it will ruin my job." As soon as he finished speaking, Ilko pointed at Raoul's nose with a trembling finger, and roared excitedly, "You bastard, do you only have a job in your heart? Are you still human? Do you know what conscience is? Are you ashamed?" He scolded Raoul back and forth again and again. Obviously he did not expect that his explanation would make his uncle so angry. After a while, a few more unlucky people were caught by the angry teachers and scolded their faces. James began to panic. He knew it was going to happen. On the bright side, he is indeed the top person in charge of the scene, and anyone with a background is decisive. But James didn't have the right to order a retreat at all. But he couldn't watch his subordinates and be scolded without morale. He gritted his teeth and said in a trembling voice, "Mr. Rolka, I'm sorry to disturb you. I was ordered to come here today. The police have definite evidence to prove that the school is harboring a suspect. As long as you hand over the suspects, or let us go in and arrest people, I promise that no one else will be implicated. Don't get excited, let me tell you straight. This matter is out of my control. I don't want to do it either. It's all the above. I'm really powerless." When Adolf Cole saw that he was almost done, he walked out and said slowly, "So, Mr. James was forced to." James nodded involuntarily, indicating that he was completely forced. Seeing James admit it, Cole made up nonsense in front of everyone. "Well, since that's the case, we won't embarrass you. This is a protest letter jointly drafted by all the faculty and staff of our school. There are 3 copies in total. This trouble you hand over to your superiors." James took the protest book in a daze, and saw all members of Bulgarian University protest against the police's illegal encirclement of the school proposal written on the cover. James immediately reacted, "Damn it, it's a big deal. The president of Bulgarian University is Archduke Ferdinand. This matter is very troublesome. He doesn't know what will happen up there. Anyway, these little pawns under them must be sure. It will be bad luck. Now I have no choice but to push hard. As long as the suspect is caught and the charges are made, the responsibility will be much lighter even if there is trouble." James still decided to fight for it, try to minimize the big things and the small ones, and said in a trembling voice, "Gentlemen, it's not yet here." "It's not here yet," said Chekhov in a hurry. When everyone saw that Chekhov was coming, along with the palace guards, they immediately relaxed. No matter what, the police can't force their way into the campus in front of the Minister of Education. Besides, there is still a team of soldiers. Even if the police have turned their faces, they have no courage to mess around. The old masters now see Chekhov very pleasing to the eye. I think he is smart and capable, brave to serve, and came to help at the critical moment. Many people thought to themselves that it was different to find a headmaster with a great background. The police arrested people recklessly outside, and it was not orderly when they arrived at the school. Even if the evidence is caught, we must act according to the rules. If we violate the rules, we can complain to the boss. Jaime's head hurts even more when he sees Chekhov. "Nima, for the sake of your own gang of little people, all of your ministers have gone out in person, so what? With a team of soldiers, can you do it? What can I do to you?" Now it is not a matter of thinking about tasks, the key is to think about how to deal with the aftermath. If one is not good, the chief minister is detained, and the police station is called to lead someone, then it will be miserable. Chekhov didn't care what James thought. A policeman, even the boss of the Sofia police, is far from his level. Although he has the lowest real power among all the ministers in the government, his rank is not low. After looking around, Chekhov didn't talk nonsense, and said directly to James, "Listen, get out of here with you guys. From now on the school will be taken over by us. If you have any problems, you can complain to the Grand Duke." So frightened, James nodded quickly and said, "Yes, we'll leave right away." After that, the police whistle blew and he quickly led people away. Chekhov ignored the police's reaction and entered the campus directly with everyone. The hearts of everyone who had just fallen were suspended again. We all know that this time the matter is a big one, and it will be settled after the fall. When he arrived at the conference room, Chekhov's face sank and he said calmly, "Call out all of the people you hid. Don't explain it to me. No matter what the reason is, you have all seriously violated the school rules, and punishment is indispensable. Whoever hides you will be responsible for taking care of them, and you must sign a guarantee agreement. We will investigate slowly. If they are indeed criminals, you will be jointly and severally liable. Is there a problem?" "No problem. We'll sign it right away," everyone said in unison. When Chekhov heard what everyone said, he smiled bitterly and said, "It's up to you, Mr. Cole. Please register and make a register. The soldiers of this company are under your command during the time and are responsible for maintaining the stability of the school. In addition, everyone is acting as a teacher, so let's think about it calmly. Does everyone's actions today conform to a teacher's code of conduct?" The Grand Duke said that the upper beam is not right and the lower beam is crooked. "I don't want you to pass on this selfish side to the next generation. For those of you who directly violate the school rules, the punishment is as follows. 1. No promotion for life. 2. Half of the salary will be deducted forever. 3. Submit a profound review and read it publicly in front of all teachers and students." Everyone's face changed greatly. This punishment is completely painful. In fact, Chekhov also decided too much, but at that time he was in a hurry to save people and did not raise any objection to Ferdinand. Intellectuals are all lofty, at least in front of outsiders to show their loftiness. They can't really say why they are opposed to the punishment of the flesh. Chapter 30, Constantine. Ferdinand has read a lot in his previous life, analyzing the weakness of human nature, and now he is learning and applying it, and it seems that the effect is good. The teachers of Bulgarian universities are now in tears and cannot refuse. "I can only comfort myself. This is to oppose the tyranny of the dictatorship, and the price paid for the confidant is worth it." It is really embarrassing to read the review in front of the whole school's teachers and students. However, if it is to oppose the tyranny of the government, to keep friends, even if it is spread out, everyone will only give a thumbs up to their character. Decades later, it's another good talk, and they can't refute it at the expense of fame. Don't look at what Chekhov said just now, but in fact, his heart was very empty, because he also took advantage of the change of position to shove someone over. It was the famous Konstantin Stolov, the leader of the People's Party and the future Prime Minister of Bulgaria. Not long ago, Konstantin Stolov, who was wanted by the government, found his old classmate and sought asylum. Forced by friendship, Chekhov took him in, but worried about causing trouble, so he hid him in the school, ready to wait for the limelight to pass, and recommend him to Ferdinand to exonerate him. I didn't expect to dare to go to this place again, and now Chekhov dare not drag it any further. He knows that the cabinet has gone crazy now, and he was caught as Konstantin Stolov, which is definitely worse. Since Christmas, more than 1,000 people have been executed by Stam's cabinet. This is also the main reason why Chekhov decided to defect from the Liberal Party and join Ferdinand. He has little hope for the future of the Liberal Party. After choosing, I still feel that Ferdinand has the most potential. The cabinet can be held every few years, but the Grand Duke cannot change it casually, and is inherently invincible. Now he decided to have an open heart with Konstantin Stolov, and he recognized the ability of this old classmate. However, the key to a politician is their position. If he is willing to stand with himself, it is easy to say. If not, then he can only be left to fend for himself. Konstantin's mood has been very depressed recently. For the sake of safety, He has been waiting for a long time in a small room where the sundries are piled up, even the food is delivered at night. He has not gone mad, but his heart is strong. Seeing Chekhov coming, Konstantin was a little excited, mixed with anticipation, and kept saying, "Chekhov, my friend, why are you here? How is it outside?" As the limelight passed, "It must be good news, isn't it?" Chekhov smiled lightly and joked, "What are you thinking? The situation outside is more chaotic now. You know what happened on Christmas Eve. How can it be so easy to pass? The police are busy catching people everywhere." Konstantin's face changed greatly, and he said with a wry smile, "Ah, God, when will this ghost life end?" "Chekhov, you know, I stay in this ghost place every day. There is no one to talk to, eat, sleeping here. Do you smell anything?" It was only now that Chekhov noticed that Konstantin looked like a rat, with unshaven hair and disheveled hair, and there was still a strong odor in the room. Oh, God, you are so unfortunate. "Then let's go out and talk, it's terrible here," Chekhov said sympathetically. Konstantin was shocked, grabbed Chekhov by the shoulder and said, "God, what did you say? I can go out? Didn't you say the police are arresting me? Now go out. Stop. Let me go. Fuck you. Don't you know how dirty you are now?" Chekhov snarled. Konstantin let go of Chekhov and said, "Sorry, I'm so excited. You know this damn place. I don't want to stay for a moment. But, can I really go out? In case someone sees it, will it implicate you?" Chekhov went out of the room and said with a look of grief, "Oh, God, poor Konstantin, you must be holding yourself back here, and you're out of your mind now." Konstantin flew out of the room, took a deep breath of fresh air, and said angrily, "You bastard, Chekhov, stop talking nonsense to me, and tell me what's going on." Chekhov smiled and said, "Okay, for your poor sake, I'll tell you. From today, the police can't enter the school, so you're safe." Konstantin asked excitedly, "Really? Tell me what happened during this period." Chekhov smiled and said, "The police surrounded the school illegally this morning, and the Grand Duke dispatched the palace guards to take over the school in a fit of anger, so it's safe now." Konstantin said excitedly, "Great, I can finally leave this ghost place." After speaking, Konstantin vented in the yard, running and roaring frantically. After a while, the recovered Konstantin walked up to Chekhov and said gratefully, "Thank you, my friend. I know this, you must have done a lot." "Really? Okay, we're friends, aren't we? You should take a bath now and then have a good sleep. I still have something to do now, so I'll go first, and I'll see you in a few days." Cut off Konstantin's words of gratitude. Having ended the conversation with Konstantin, Chekhov knew that it had come to pass. Unless he wants to live in those dark days, he will never refuse. Ferdinand, who is still in the palace, still doesn't know that Bulgaria's next prime minister is about to come over. Otherwise he is in a much better mood now. The Conservative Party and the Democratic Party are all food buckets. It's just that they can't fight against the Liberal Party. They can't even provoke them. They haven't responded for a few days. Ferdinand thought gloomily. In fact, Ferdinand is ready, just waiting for the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party and others to go to war, so that all the hidden dangers in Bulgaria can be cleared in one fell swoop. As a lover of Ashes history, Ferdinand knew that every successful reform was accompanied by bloody storms. In 2 lifetimes, Ferdinand didn't want to get his hands dirty. Having experienced the era of the internet, he knows that as long as he is stained now, he will definitely be scolded in the future, and those public officials don't care about the overall situation. Therefore, for the sake of his own name, Ferdinand indulged the dictatorship of Stam's cabinet. Otherwise, he would have come forward to stop it. When things came to an end, Ferdinand still had a guilty conscience. After all, it involved the lives of tens of thousands of people. He didn't know if he should stop it. "Your Majesty, the fish is moving." Fu hurried in and said, "Well, I see." The layout was completed, Ferdinand said calmly, without excitement or pain, as if he was out of the world, and everything had nothing to do with him. Chapter 31. The wind of May blew into Bulgaria, filled with smiling faces and splendid flowers, knocked the sleeping sky with the hand of hope, blown away the erosion, blew away the rotten smell, and brought clarity. Time flies. 4 months have passed in a blink of an eye. Time is the best medicine. The pain brought by the bloody Christmas Eve slowly faded out of people's lives with the passage of time. Bulgaria began to gradually return to its former calm, and Sofia had already lifted martial law. With the arrest of a large number of opposition groups, the local situation has become calm, and the government has begun to relax the supervision of the people. On May 4, 1889, with the sound of boom, the tranquility of Sofia was broken. The long silent opposition parties launched a massive counterattack against the government. This time, unlike in the past, the mastermind was a radical, Vasil Radoslav. The opposition party has recruited dozens of volunteers, and it is the strongest force they can come up with now. Vasil chose to avoid the real and the fake, targeting the family members of government officials. Stambulov was shot again, and as prime minister his family was naturally taken care of. Edberg Primary School, located in southeastern Sofia, is one of the best primary schools in Bulgaria, where Stambulov's eldest son, Will, studies. At noon, Edberg Primary School was taking a lunch break, when two strange men suddenly knocked down the guard and broke into the campus. Packed with explosives, they headed straight to Will's class and detonated the bomb. More than 10 people were killed on the spot and more than 30 were injured. Will is also among the injured. I don't know whether to say that he has a bad life or that he has a hard life. The people who came here immediately rescued them, perhaps knowing Will's identity. Under the full rescue of the school doctor, he saved his life. However, he was hit by shrapnel in both legs and had to be amputated to avoid infection. For a 10-year-old child, this is too cruel. Stamburov, who came to hear the news, saw Will's tragic state. His head hummed, his heart was burning with anger, and he could not wait to smash the murderer into pieces. At about the same time, other senior officials of the government also received bad news. For example, the Minister of the Interior, Yunus, whose wife was shopping outside, was suddenly hit by a bomb and died on the spot. Blood debt is paid for by blood. This is their unanimous idea. The police in Sofia were dispatched again, and they were all scared now, for fear of touching their brows and losing their jobs. In the evening, an emergency cabinet meeting was held. I saw a few people with gloomy faces and walked into the conference room, and there were roars from time to time outside the house. Stam's voice went from low to high, and gradually roared, his face flushed, and then blue, his neck swelled like it was about to explode, his head was covered in beads of sweat, and his fists were crackling on the lecture table. Ring. He was mad with anger, but the other four were not much better. Their anger grew even more as they grudged each other. Stam roared and roared, the police are a bunch of rice buckets. I actually let these terrorists infiltrate Sofia. I want to dismiss them. Will said with a livid face. Yes, they must be dismissed. Not only that, but also send them to prison. This is all caused by their dereliction of duty. Michael gritted his teeth and said, we must take revenge. Take them all out and hang them all. Yunus said fiercely, not only that, they dare to do this, it's time to show them how good we are. Do you really think we dare not kill people? Stam's eyes widened, and he said fiercely, you're right. Most of their leaders are in our hands. If that's the case, then execute those leaders. Let them see, the government will kill people too. Vasil Radoslav's plan was successful, and the Stam government's eyes were all on them. Minor changes in the military are ignored. However, the consequences may be beyond his expectations, and the stimulation is too much. Stam's cabinet does not care about the influence now, and the butcher's knife has been cut at them. The police are now arresting people, and it is already a matter of life and death. With the cooperation of FU's intelligence department, the police's combat effectiveness began to show up, and hidden opposition parties were arrested one after another. Many people who wanted to escape were shot dead on the spot. Vasil is secretly celebrating the success of the operation, but unfortunately, as a dangerous element, he is one of the first targets of FU's removal. So the police came to the door, and Vasil didn't know that he had been exposed. Just hearing a whoosh sound, the future famous Radoslavs were wiped out in the cradle. That's right, this is Ferdinand's plan to kill with a knife, and the executor is of course the intelligence chief Fu. In 2 years, Ferdinand's influence has penetrated into all walks of life in Bulgaria, and the police and army are naturally the key targets. Compared with the army, the Bulgarian police are like a pair of hairpins, with loopholes everywhere. Whether it was infiltrating inside, or coercing and enticing, Fu easily pulled a vote of people. It's time to come in handy today and clear the target. It's just a small task. Fu's main targets are the arrested landlords, capitalists, politicians and extremists. Yunus returned to the Ministry of the Interior, the cup shattered on the ground, and the documents flew around. After vending, he summoned his subordinates. He scolded fiercely, "The chaotic party is so rampant, you are all a bunch of rice buckets." All day long, 10,000 words omitted. Perhaps tired of scolding, Yunus said angrily, "You guys are going to prison now and publicly execute the leader of the chaos party to me, do you hear me?" Everyone was shocked and was about to ask for the specific list, but when they saw Yunus' livid face, they hesitated. Out of the office, Paul Karachigan and others were at a loss to execute the leader. Who is the leader? How do you define it? But living under the shadow of Yunus for a long time, they didn't have the guts to ask. Paul Karachigan asked in confusion, "What should we do now? Who of you know who the leaders are?" Everyone shook their heads and said they didn't know. Suddenly Kahili patted his head, smiled and said, "I see, it should be determined according to their identities. Naturally, the person with high status is the leader. As for the specific definition, just leave it to the people below. And it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. If you kill it wrongly, he is unlucky. You can kill the fish that slipped through the net. I think even if they are all dead now, Mr. Minister will not mind." Several other people also reacted and smiled at each other. That's right, it turned out to be just a difference of political opinion, so naturally there is no need to kill them. The group arrested now have personal grudges against the people above, and the minister didn't say it directly, maybe he just wanted us to kill more. Chapter 32, Slaughter. From top to bottom, level by level, Stam's cabinet's resolutions were passed on in a vague way. Fu, who had been eyeing him for a long time, naturally would not miss this great opportunity. Ferdinand's order to him was to kill people with a knife and remove hidden dangers. Now that the time is ripe, Fu activated the intelligence personnel who have been lurking in the police for a long time, with only one task: expand the situation as much as possible. Laurentwell is very annoying now. As the boss of the Sofia police station, few people dared to find him unhappy. However, it is an exception recently. Yesterday, there was a big assassination in Sofia that shocked the whole country. As the chief of the Sofia police department, it is God's blessing that he has not been dismissed, and life will not be easy. Just now he received another secret order from the Ministry of the Interior, and his mood was even worse. There is only one core meaning, and he wants him to execute the leader of the Chaos Party immediately, but there is no specific list, and Lauren Wilmont has circled it. Who are you going to kill? There are a lot of chaotic parties in my hands, so there must be a specific goal. Do you want to execute them all? Thinking of this, Laurentwell was afraid. There were thousands of people. Laurentwell, who didn't figure it out, only wandered around the office. At this moment, his secretary Conris said suddenly, "I seem to know what's going on." "Oh, God bless." "Conris, quickly tell me what the above is thinking?" Laurentwell said happily. Conris said with a wry smile, "Mr. Director, you linked what happened in Sofia yesterday, and you will understand immediately." Laurentwell said with a pale face, "Yesterday? Ah, God, I have a big deal. It's not a good job. Maybe there will be a big mess." No wonder people in the Ministry of the Interior dare not say it directly. Conris said, complaining, "Yes, Mr. Chief, the people above want revenge, but they don't want to bear the reputation of the butcher. The Ministry of the Interior also doesn't want to bear the reputation of the butcher, although their reputation is not good." Laurentwell said angrily, "God damn it, this is making me a scapegoat." "So what should we do now?" Conris suggested. "Mr. Director, since this is the case, why don't we also learn from the Ministry of the Interior and hand it over to the people below to do it?" Laurentwell's eyes lit up, slapped the table, and said loudly, "Good idea. Just do it like this, at least it can reduce our responsibilities. By the way, don't forget to give some tips to the people below, otherwise those idiots, I guess it won't do anything." Kenris immediately echoed and said, "Yes, Mr. Director, it's better to let the people below do it tonight, so as not to have too many dreams at night." "Okay, I'll order right away," Will said after a little thought. Will still doesn't know how much impact his order will have, and Sofia will bleed into a river tonight. Obviously, Kenris gave him a bad idea, and with the help of Ferdinand's intelligence officers, everyone knew that the cabinet wanted revenge, so the massacre began. In fact, there are still a lot of people in the circle at the same time, and everyone who has received the secret order is in the same mood now. At this moment, there will always be someone who will come forward with a plan, reminiscent of the assassination. Many smart people think they understand. The boss wants to take revenge. Naturally, the more kills, the better. From the initial plan of the cabinet, more than a dozen leaders were executed, to the Ministry of the Interior, the target has been expanded to dozens of people. Now with the help of intelligence agents, it has been interpreted as follows: the more kills, the better. Some people even try to please the cabinet, directly kill all the chaotic parties in their hands. An unclear secret order, because of the misinterpretation of the subordinates, created an accidental massacre. This is the secret massacre that has far-reaching influence on Bulgaria. Because the people who are specifically responsible for the execution are not sure who should be killed and who should not be killed. Confusedly raised the butcher's knife, which was later called the Bulgarian Confused Massacre. Ferdinand successfully hid himself behind the scenes without revealing the slightest trace. On the surface, he did not know it. The black pot was naturally and accurately placed on the head of Stam's cabinet. Anyway, there was too much debt. From dictatorship government to police government, now there is another hat of butcher government. It was also selected by later media as the worst cabinet in Bulgaria. On the other side, the opposition parties, who were still in the dark, did not know that the butcher knife was about to be chopped at them. On May 5, officers led by Major Panica launched an uprising in the barracks on the outskirts of Sofia. Unfortunately, because the organization was not tight enough, it was exposed as soon as it was launched. It was led and suppressed by Sofia garrison commander Sava Mutkarov, and Paniza was killed on the spot. At the same time, the strongholds of the opposition parties in various places were also exposed. The angry policeman directly killed the door, and the opposition party was almost wiped out. Stam's cabinet, which is all going well, doesn't know yet that the death knell has sounded for them. Shankin is in the joy of destroying the chaotic party, or in the pleasure of getting revenge! With the sound of gunshots on the outskirts, the Bulgarian cell gradually lost its hustle and bustle and became empty again. After that night, the Stam government finally physically and completely wiped out the opposition parties. Even if there are still fish that slip through the net, there is no chance of becoming a climate again, because their supporters no longer exist. According to statistics after the event, more than 12,000 people were killed in Bulgaria that night. Blood flows into rivers, bones form into mountains, the sky is miserable, and the ground is pale. The dark years are tragic. Nikolai Haitov, a famous Bulgarian writer of later generations, described the tragedy with such verses. At the end of the 19th century, the strength of the Bulgarian bourgeoisie was still very limited, and in it, the dominant class is the landlord class, the evolved agricultural capitalists, and the emerging industrial and commercial bourgeoisie is extremely weak. The main supporters of the Stam government are precisely this part of the emerging industrial and commercial capitalists, who have close ties with Austro-Hungary and British capital. Although the Stam government has successfully eliminated its competitors, it has also lost its fragile ruling base. Originally, the vast majority of peasants, urban petty bourgeoisie, most missionaries and intellectuals in Bulgaria were pro-Russian factions who opposed the government's policy toward Russia and had extremely low support for the Stam government. Coupled with the reign of terror of Stam's cabinet, the people are displeased, and now there are appalling massacres, which will surely arouse the opposition of the people. The opportunity that Ferdinand had been waiting for many days has come. Chapter 33. In the royal palace of Sofia, Ferdinand is drinking tea leisurely. Tea has become his living habit. At this time, a maid who was about 16 or 17 years old came over, with a round oval face, dark eyes, and a youthful and lively atmosphere all over her body. Grand Duke, Mr. Fu is here. Oh, Alice, bring him here, said Ferdinand lazily. Alice said playfully, yes, Archduke. Anyone who is familiar with Ferdinand knows that in ordinary life he is very easygoing and has no air. You can even joke and chat with the maid on an equal footing, and the young Alice is not afraid of him at all. In an instant, Fu came to Ferdinand. Fu Qiang said calmly, Your Excellency, the fruit is already ripe. It can be seen that he is very excited now, although he has worked hard to pretend to be calm. The change between his eyebrows has still betrayed him. Ferdinand said happily, Okay, Mr. Fu, you have done a good job this time, and you can move on to the next step. Yes, Your Excellency. We are now negotiating the price with the hirelings, Fu said cautiously. Ferdinand's brows changed slightly, then he stretched out again and said with a smile, Then go and do your work, I'll wait for your good news. The situation in Bulgaria was already dangerous, and Ferdinand had to be careful at this point. For fear of being negligent for a while, the rumors leaked, which made Stam's cabinet aware of it, and all efforts were abandoned. From Fu's report just now, Ferdinand knew that the preliminary plan had been completed, and that the Stam government was about to end. However, the wooing of the army has only been completed. It is normal to think about it. The news of the massacre has not yet spread, and the military is not in a hurry to stand in line now. Presumably when the news spreads, unless it is a die-hard, everyone else will make the right choice. After all, few people are willing to be buried with Stam's cabinet government and stand on the opposite side of the Bulgarian people. In fact, the Stam government's control of the army is not very tight, and most of the middle and lower level officers and ordinary soldiers are not interested in them. This created an opportunity for Ferdinand. Talking about ideals with lower level officers and discussing treatment with ordinary soldiers was an established routine, and it was often unfavorable. The military has its own system, and it is difficult for outsiders to reach it, but this is not a problem. Ferdinand still has the guards, and he is justifiably controlled by him. After nearly 2 consecutive years of brainwashing, now the recent army is Ferdinand's die-hard loyalists, and the die-hards have long since been retired. They are Ferdinand's weapon to win over the military. The guards have always been paid adequately, and in times of financial difficulties, Ferdinand had paid for it himself, so the morale of the officers and soldiers was always high. Often inadvertently propaganda for Ferdinand, increasing his prestige in the army. Since Ferdinand came to the throne, the guard is the most envied place of ordinary Bulgarian soldiers. Although the military salaries are the same, the standard of food is higher, and Ferdinand has promised to retire. Before someone was injured in training and was forced to retire, Ferdinand was placed in the factory, enjoying the preferential treatment of retired military personnel and receiving the same wages as ordinary workers. They only need to work 8 hours a day, and they will be paid overtime. It is really enviable. In fact, Ferdinand also submitted a draft of preferential treatment of veterans to Congress and was mocked by Stam's cabinet. The Congress, which represents the interests of the bourgeoisie, naturally rejected it without hesitation. It doesn't matter if the high-level officers are, anyway, their treatment is high enough, and the ordinary soldiers have long scolded the Congress. Now Fu's target is Sofia's garrison commander, Savimudkarov. As long as he is settled, there will be no doubt that Stam's cabinet will fall. Savimudkarov, who had just suppressed a riot, now busy thinking about the aftermath, an uninvited guest walked in and acted in front of him. And it was Fu. In order to solve the final hidden danger, Fu decided to go out in person. If Savimudkarov chose to refuse, Fu would have to send him to God. In fact, if it wasn't for Savimudkarov's high prestige in the army, killing him would easily make the military mournful, and Fu would have dealt with him long ago. Savimudkarov looked at Fu and asked suspiciously, "Who are you? How did you get in?" Before Fu could answer, he called out the door again, "Guard, guard, get this rude bastard out of here." Fu smiled and said, "Mr. Savoy, Please calm down, since I can come in and sit. Naturally I'm done. Who are you? Savamutkarov forcibly suppressed his anger. Fuu still said with a smile, introduce yourself first. I'm going to Fuu. By order of Grand Duke Ferdinand, I'm here to visit Your Excellency Savoy. What? The Archduke's order? You are lying. Your Excellency, the Archduke is looking for me. Wouldn't you send someone to directly call me to the palace? And you need to hide your head and show your tail, Savamutkarov said with a sneer. Fuu ignored his rudeness and asked, then Your Excellency Sava thinks, besides Your Excellency the Archduke, who else in Bulgaria can make the soldiers outside disobey your orders? Savamutkarov thought about it, and it was true. He was the spokesperson of the Liberal Party army, and Fuu could not be a Liberal Party. If the opposition party had such great energy, the uprising would have been successful long ago. Then Mr. Fuu, what does the Grand Duke need from me? After confirming Fuu's identity, Savamutkarov spoke a lot more politely. Fuu still said with a smile, Mr. Sava must also know the recent actions of the cabinet, and some of them have gone against the grain, and they have lost their hearts. Savamutkarov retorted, Mr. Fuu is serious. The cabinet's recent actions are indeed a bit inappropriate, but it has not yet reached this point. Fuu looked at him and said seriously, Mr. Savoy may not know, just last night, a horrific event happened in Bulgaria. Savamutkarov smiled and said casually, oh, isn't it just an opposition riot? It has been suppressed by me. Fuu said solemnly, no, Mr. Savoy, it is 10 times more serious than this. Hearing this, Savamutkarov straightened his body and asked suspiciously, what's the matter? Fuu said with a gloomy expression, last night, the cabinet ordered the execution of the arrested opposition parties. We don't know who they are, but just outside Sofia, there are thousands of corpses. Savamutkarov exclaimed, what? Are you sure, Mr. Fuu? Is the cabinet crazy? Fuu said with certainty, yes, Mr. Savoy's cabinet may be really insane. To execute so many people without a court trial is a blatant slaughter. Savamutkarov asked a little lost, what's the plan of this? Your Excellency the Grand Duke? Chapter 34, The Fall. Fuu took a deep sigh, looked at Savamutkarov and said, Bulgaria is now at the moment of life and death. There are powerful enemies feeding on the outside, and the inside is now like a powder keg, igniting at once. His Excellency the Grand Duke is very worried about this. He feels that the Stam cabinet government has been unable to control the situation and is ready to dismiss the cabinet. Although he was already prepared, Savamutkarov was still shocked, as if he was struck by a bolt from the blue, and as if someone had poured a basin of cold water from head to toe, and his whole body was numbed out. After a moment of silence, Sava slowly recovered, barely raising his spirits, staring at Fuu, and asked in disbelief, what? Fuu nodded seriously, indicating that it was true. Then he took out a pack of cigarettes, lit one, and took a puff. Then he said, Mr. Savoy, do you want one? Saying that, without waiting for Savamutkarov to answer, he lit another one and handed it over. Savamutkarov took it numbly, and took a deep breath. The smoke lingers and burns quietly. It seems that it is so simple, you don't need to think. Soon the short cigarette was burnt out, and Fuu looked at Savamutkarov, who was still silent, and said, would you like another one? Oh, thank you, no need. Savamutkarov woke up suddenly and replied in a panic. Fuu didn't say anything, just looked at Savamutkarov quietly. He knew that what he had to say had already been said, and there was no need to say anything. As for coercion and inducement, it is not suitable for use here. At this level, it is clear what kind of choices you make and what results you get. I saw Savamutkarov stood up and wandered around the office. After a while, he sighed deeply and asked worriedly, what is Your Excellency going to do with the cabinet? Fuu knows that he is worried about being liquidated in the future. After all, the Stam government has done a terrible job, and there are countless people in Bulgaria who want their lives. Because the work pressure is too great for the cabinet members, the doctor diagnosed that they may be mentally ill and unable to continue working for the government. His Excellency the Grand Duke has already contacted the hospital in Vienna and intends to send them to the past for treatment for a period of time. Fu said calmly. Savimatkarov's dangling heart suddenly let go. He knew that Ferdinand was going to let them go. After all, the reputation of Stam's cabinet government is really too stinky. Once it loses its power, it will inevitably be liquidated in the future. Sending them abroad seems to be the best option at the moment. As long as the cabinet members are not convicted, they will not be purged in the future as liberals. Looking at what the Stam government has done recently, he also has some doubts about whether he is really mentally ill. If Stamborov knew what he was thinking, he would be wronged. It's not like this at all. Who knows that the group of idiots under him have made such a situation? Okay, Mr. Fu, I will do what the Grand Duke asks you to do. After saying this, Savimatkarov seemed to have exhausted all his strength and collapsed on the seat all of a sudden. After completing the tasks given by Savimatkarov and Ferdinand, Fu has completed most of the tasks. The rest of the Liberal Party's military forces are far away from Sofia, and they are simply beyond their reach. Once Stam's cabinet is ousted, it's hard for them to move. Ferdinand is not a second-year junior, as long as he doesn't go to kill everything. Even if the high-level officers want to make a move, the officers and soldiers below are willing to cooperate. After receiving the news from Fu, Ferdinand was ready to cut through the mess, and he was caught off guard by the Stam cabinet before the news spread. Ferdinand changed the original plan and sent someone to notify the congressmen overnight to convene the Congress ahead of schedule. Although he also knew that the current Congress, it has been completely controlled by the Liberal Party, and I still intend to go through the motions. Because Ferdinand deliberately delayed the news, Stam's cabinet was notified the next day, which made Stam, who was already in power, very dissatisfied. But before he had time to vent, he was interrupted by Yunus, who came in a hurry, and he didn't care anymore. Yunus brings a shocking news to the world. A list of executed prisoners. That's right, it was the criminal who was executed the night before. Seeing the long list, Stam knew the sky was falling. His thick lips, completely bloodless, trembled slightly like two willow leaves, as if they were too anxious to speak. Afterwards, Michael, Wilson, and the others who came after read the list and became pale, knowing that they were going to die. A distraught cabinet member who somehow walked into Congress. After sitting in their respective positions, they were all dumbfounded, saying nothing, and ignoring everyone's greetings. Even when Ferdinand came in, they didn't change much. Ferdinand knew that the situation was settled. After all, the news was too appalling. It is difficult for Stam's cabinet to react in a short period of time, and it is too late to think about countermeasures. The Congress was still held, and Ferdinand did not follow the usual practice, and said directly, "Misters, it is a pity that I have to tell you bad news now. We, Mr. Stambolov and several other cabinet ministers, are probably mentally ill and cannot continue to run the government now." The people below immediately exploded, and there was a lot of discussion. What? How is this possible? But looking at the cabinet members who are in a daze now, it seems that they are really sick. Everyone went to greet him just now, but none of them answered. In fact, Stambolov is now sober, but he just doesn't know how to deal with the next problem. Since Ferdinand said they were sick, they immediately decided to pretend to be sick. After all, the massacre had already happened, and they had no way of explaining it to the outside world. It is truly appalling that tens of thousands of people were directly executed without a court trial. Once the news spread, they were a rat crossing the street in Bulgaria, and everyone was shouting and beating. Ferdinand's statement seems to be the only way to get them out of the way. As long as it is true that they are mentally ill, the law will not hold them accountable. Karl, who was appointed my minister, shouted, "Quiet." After a while, seeing everyone calm down, Ferdinand continued, "Okay, everyone has seen it. There is really no way for them to continue working for Bulgaria in their current state. I have already contacted the hospital in Vienna for them. In the afternoon just send them over there. The guards are taking them home now. Clean up." If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, Dissolution of Congress. Seeing the guards send the cabinet away, Ferdinand also breathed a deep sigh of relief. After all, he was still supported by Stambov, and Ferdinand was really reluctant to go to this step if it was not necessary. But politics is so cruel that he cannot afford to take a step back. Even so, Ferdinand chose to show mercy. Ignoring everyone's surprise, Ferdinand continued, "Gentlemen, you can now look back." The cabinet led by Mr. Stambov. The results of the previous work are obvious to all, and they have made outstanding achievements for the development of Bulgaria. Contribution, and may God bless them with a speedy recovery. As for the later work, the reason for hesitating about the disease may interfere with their minds, and they did a lot of stupid things when they went against their hearts, but I believe that everyone will not care about the patients. The people of Bulgaria are tolerant and will definitely forgive them. According to the Bulgarian constitution, the cabinet no longer exists. In order to deal with the next work, I have decided to organize a temporary cabinet until the end of this term and re-election. The liberals' faces changed greatly, and Ferdinand did not give them a chance to reform the cabinet, which made them very dissatisfied. Many people are starting to move, and everyone who has been suppressed by Stambov for a long time can no longer hold back. Your Excellency, shouldn't our Liberal Party form the cabinet? Holmes stood up and asked Ferdinand. Other Liberal MPs also expressed their dissatisfaction, as if they would not let it go without giving a reason. Ferdinand hadn't spoken yet when another member of parliament jumped out. Archbishop Skrement, a member of the church, immediately stood up and retorted, "According to the Bulgarian constitution, what the Grand Duke did is completely legal. Because the previous cabinet violated the constitution many times. If it was not determined that Stambov and others were already mentally ill, they should be in prison now." The Liberal Party has not stopped the illegal behavior of the cabinet, and has lost the right to continue to form the cabinet. Immediately won the support of a group of parliamentarians. The Stam government's reign of terror has long dissatisfied them. If the Liberal Party continues to govern, who knows if it will continue to clear dissidents, and maybe one day he will be taken away by the police. It is better to choose to support Ferdinand, at least not an enemy, and they can cooperate with each other, and maybe they can also get a position in the cabinet. The two sides quarreled and fought. The Liberal Party had a large number of MPs, while the opposition held high the banner of the law and fought hard. Ferdinand immediately slapped the table and roared, "Silence! This is the Congress, not the vegetable market. If anyone wants to make trouble again, get out of here." Now I declare that the Liberal Party has now been disqualified from the ruling party due to many violations of the constitution during its tenure in power. At the same time, due to the arrest of many MPs, the number of MPs has fallen below 3/4, and I have decided to dissolve the parliament and hold a new election. Hearing this news, the faces below were mixed, happy and worried. The Liberal MPs immediately changed their faces, and they all knew that because of the reckless actions of the Stam government, their reputation was already bad, and they had no chance of winning at all. Just now everyone was busy fighting for power and profit, and they never thought that Ferdinand would directly draw wages from the bottom of the pot. You must know that the Liberal Party has always been the main force supporting Ferdinand's succession. Most of the other political forces in Bulgaria are pro-Russian, and they were his opponents before. But politics is such a comedy. Before Ferdinand came to the throne, the pro-Russians were opposed to him. Now that the overall situation has been settled, Ferdinand is already the legitimate Grand Duke of Bulgaria, and the basis for the opposition of the pro-Russian faction no longer exists. On the contrary, it was the Liberal Party that supported Ferdinand before, which became a stumbling block on his road to power. The point is that the liberals didn't wake up in time and still treated him as a rubber stamp, and now it's a tragedy. The other members of the assembly showed victorious eyes. Stam's cabinet and power actually fell en masse, and the Liberal Party also fell. Bulgaria's political landscape is about to face a major reshuffle. This is a godsend for them. If they don't take action, they will be flooded. Ferdinand looked at the chaotic crowd, and left the venue without saying anything. He knew that when the massacre was revealed, the Liberal Party was truly over. In order to avoid suspicion, the news cannot be leaked from him, and can only be allowed to spread freely. A street tabloid in Sofia has already started printing, and they were forced to close their doors a while ago due to the government's crackdown. Luckily, he was targeted by FUU, and then he was incorporated. He ran away in time and escaped the catastrophe. Now is the time to show your worth to the new boss. Revealing the massacre is the first bullet. Originally, the workers were hesitant, but seeing the photos of the massacre aroused their anger at the government, and immediately went to work. Just as the new boss said, if the news is exposed, the Grand Duke will disband the cabinet when he sees it, and the arrogant and domineering police will be unlucky, and everyone can live a good life. The ex-members who just left the door of the Congress received this appalling news, and many people were stunned. People who had doubts at first have now said that the cabinet members are really crazy. Otherwise, who would dare to do this? He killed tens of thousands of people at one time, and none of them were ordinary people. It can be imagined that as soon as the news of Ferdinand's dismissal of the cabinet and the dissolution of Congress came out, he could gain a lot of popularity. Back at the palace, Ferdinand's nervous heart finally relaxed. He was really worried just now that there would be a scandal in which a member of parliament beat the king. Fortunately, nothing happened. Now you can count the harvest with confidence. The liberals have reached the point where everyone is shouting and beating. The opposition certainly wouldn't mind and put the butcher's party hat on them. The catastrophe is imminent, and they are flying separately. Now they are too busy to take care of themselves, and they have no time to look for Ferdinand's bad luck. Hate to press the gold thread every year and make wedding clothes for others. This sentence explained Stam's current mood very well. He worked hard to bear the infamy, but Ferdinand enjoyed it. Setting foot on the road to Vienna, Stambulov has quite a bit of 5 miles and one wandering. He knew that if there were no accidents, he would never have the chance to set foot on this land again in this life. Things are not so easy to end. So many people have died. The government will always have an explanation. The cabinet has been sent away, although Ferdinand sent him a mental illness, but he does not think it is over. With so many government officials, there are always a few to be held responsible, and that huge amount of property, there are not a few people who want to pay attention. Chapter 36. The establishment of the Provisional Cabinet. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, Lord Scrymant said in disbelief, "How is this possible? The cabinet is crazy. Are the officials below crazy too? This is completely insane." No one answered his question, and everyone around was as stunned as he was. The opposition party, which originally thought it was going to make a comeback, is now blinded by this bad news. The main characters are dead, and the foundation is gone. The remaining 2 or 3 cats and dogs are destined to become spectators. To the outside world, this is a big firefight between the liberals and the opposition. The liberals felt that the tide was over, and they simply dragged the opposition to the end. Now everyone is almost there. The Liberal Party is notorious. The opposition party is thin. Everyone has lost their popular base, and no one has the ability to destroy the other. This is exactly what Ferdinand wanted. After this battle, it will be difficult for Bulgarian political parties to form a climate for at least 20 years. Moreover, the people are no longer interested in political parties. The massacre of the Liberal Party and the assassination of the opposition party are terrifying to think about. After thinking for a while, Ferdinand decided to beat the underdogs and said to FUU, "The focus of your work in the future is to continue to guide public opinion and focus on propaganda." FUU asked suspiciously, "Your Excellency the Grand Duke wants to abolish the political party?" Ferdinand gave FUU a dissatisfied look, and after a moment of silence he said, What do you think is the problem?" FUU knew that he had made a blunder, which was beyond the scope of his work, and said quickly, "No, there is no problem, I will do it right away." Ferdinand waved his hand and motioned for FUU to leave. I thought to myself, FUU has so much power in his hands that he is getting carried away now. It seems that the power must be divided. At this time, Alice walked up to Ferdinand and said, "Grand Duke, Minister Chekhov is here. Let him in," said Ferdinand, calming down. Done. Courtesy greeting, Chekhov begins to report to Ferdinand. Your Majesty, I recommend a person to you. He is very capable and can assist you in handling government affairs. Ferdinand asked in surprise, "Oh, who is it?" Stam's cabinet fell, and in addition to leaving a huge sum of money, it also left behind a bunch of troubles. The provisional cabinet has yet to come and be formed. This all needs to be handled by Ferdinand. He is in urgent need of help. Chekhov did not shy away from saying, "My old classmate Konstantin Netalov, a former high-ranking member of the People's Party, has strong personal ability, and he has no obvious inclination in diplomacy." Ferdinand was shocked. He was another celebrity, and it seemed that he was the next Prime Minister of Bulgaria in the original time and space. Konstantin Netalov, who became the Prime Minister of Bulgaria in 1894, continued to implement the economic policy of the Stam government and promoted the industrial development of Bulgaria with the most energy in the previous governments, normalized the relationship. But in dealing with political enemies, the BJP often hires assassins to murder opponents, and soon after taking office, party officials engaged in great transactions, corruption, and soon became notorious. Ferdinand thought about it for a while, and then relaxed. The current situation is very different from the history. Konstantin Netalov couldn't make a big splash, and it seemed like a good choice to let him handle the internal affairs. Oh, since you admire him so much, I'll meet him, Ferdinand said with a smile. Chekhov said in a positive tone, "Don't worry, Your Excellency, he will never let you down." Ferdinand nodded. Chekhov was overjoyed. His efforts were finally not in vain, and he was rewarded so quickly. "Enjoy," he said excitedly. "Your Excellency, please rest assured, I will definitely work hard to do it well." Ferdinand nodded in satisfaction. His time in Bulgaria is too short, and there are not many suitable candidates in his hands. Chekhov was the first high-ranking government official to take refuge in him. Although his ability was average, he was more obedient and had good execution. And since he is already the Minister of Education, it is not too abrupt to promote him to the cabinet. Time flies by, and after 2 days of fermentation, the news has spread all over Bulgaria, and everyone is talking about it. The media has just been deregulated, and now it's like being suffocated, biting the Liberal Party and the opposition party and lashing out. The intellectuals who escaped the disaster, the education circles responded in groups. Thanks to the reign of terror of the Stam government, many ordinary people are, nothing to do with themselves, hanging high, which has relieved Ferdinand's pressure. Although Stam's cabinet was sent away in the name of mental illness, there were still strong calls for their death sentence. Fortunately, Ferdinand dealt with decisively, launched a rehabilitative committee, and diverted the public's attention with reversal of the case, so there was no confusion. On May 15, 1889, Ferdinand set up a temporary cabinet in a low-key manner, and the Prime Minister took up the vacancy. Now there are only 3 members, the Minister of Education Chekhov, the Minister of Agriculture James Padanov, and the pro-Russian Paishik Clement Archbishop. Immediately after the establishment of the new government, tithing in kind was abolished, and the exorbitant taxes imposed during the Stam government were also abolished. Then Ferdinand was ordered by Archbishop Skriment to form a delegation to visit St. Petersburg, to appease the domestic pro-Russian faction. After doing this, Ferdinand breathed a sigh of relief. The chaotic situation in Bulgaria was stabilized in a short period of time. Now Ferdinand has the energy to deal with the mess left by Stam's cabinet. The ongoing 5-year plan cannot be stopped. The chaotic government system needs to be sorted out. The most troublesome are the suspects who were executed secretly and still in prison, and need to be re-identified. Konstantin Netalov passed Ferdinand's test and was appointed Minister of the Interior, responsible for presiding over the daily work of the government. Chekhov personally took command of the reversal committee and began to identify charges. Of course, those who participated in or were involved in the assassination were directly ignored. The unfortunate one who was directly destroyed by the door also leaned back. Even so, the rehabilitative work of tens of thousands of people will not start soon. This was Ferdinand's idea, and everything was handled in accordance with legal procedures. Ferdinand invited out the Bulgarian judiciary. The famous old stubborn, Boris Christoph, formed the Anti-Corruption Bureau. Begin to purge the assholes in the government, including the former cabinet, which is also under investigation, and a large number of officials face being replaced. The first to bear the brunt is the police department. As a direct participant in the massacre, the outside world is shouting and shouting. Taking this opportunity, Ferdinand quietly completed his control of the police system. Ferdinand and the interim cabinet were busy for more than half a year before the government got on the right track. Chapter 37, Internal Affairs. After the establishment of the interim cabinet, Ferdinand eliminated dissidents in the name of anti-corruption, vigorously cultivated cronies, and tried to dilute the influence of the Liberal Party. Among them, Boris Christoph made a great contribution. Boris Christoph, the anti-corruption chief who is a great hero, is now busy every day, happy and painful. His ideal has come true, but the leisurely life is gone forever. Now he is the sky in the eyes of the people and the butcher in the eyes of officials. Ferdinand gave Boris Christoph full confidence. As long as he was eyeing him, few would be able to escape. He was unselfish, and no matter who pleaded for mercy, he did not show face, and Ferdinand was no exception. Even the intelligence officers under Fu were affected by Chu, and a few unlucky people with dirty hands and feet were imprisoned. Fu simply pushed the boat along the way, and let them go to the prison to spy on the criminals, and make meritorious deeds. Now Bulgaria is doing a lot of infrastructure, and most of these criminals will be sent to work as coolies. The Anti-Corruption Bureau led by Boris is now sending people to court every 3 to 5, and the efficiency is amazing. As a result, the Bulgarian court had to organize a separate temporary court to try corrupt officials. The media also gave him the laudatory title of official slaughter, and Boris Christoph became the most popular person in Bulgarian folk. Boris Christoph's efforts have not been in vain. In addition to the arrest of a large number of corrupt officials, the people have once again restored their trust in the government. In order to better develop the economy, Ferdinand merged the Ministry of the Interior and the Ministry of Economy, and the promotion of local officials. Economic development has become an important indicator. Combining the actual situation in Bulgaria, Ferdinand established the merger of the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. The Water Conservancy Department, which originally belonged to the Ministry of the Interior, was placed under the Ministry of Agriculture. Thanks to the huge legacy left by Stam's cabinet, Bulgaria's long-term financial crisis has been resolved. It gave Ferdinand sufficient confidence to accelerate the industrialization of Bulgaria. In agriculture, a large number of borderless lands were nationalized as a result of the blurry Holocaust. At the same time, a part of the hidden land was confiscated, which was also confiscated by the government. The government now directly controls 1/3 of Bulgaria's land. In order to alleviate class conflicts, Ferdinand stipulated that the maximum land tax should not exceed 30%, and the landowner was responsible for paying agricultural taxes. Ferdinand decided to gradually build farms in the plains, adopt mechanized operations, and promote technological upgrading in the agricultural industry. At the ministerial meeting at the end of 1889, Konstantin Netalov said with a rosy face, "Your Excellency the Grand Duke, the domestic economy is developing very well now, and the new investment in half a year is as high as 50 million levs." Ferdinand smiled and nodded, signaling him to continue. I thought to myself, that's a good ass, most of them are their own investment or government investment, and there is very little real private capital. Constantine continued, from June to now, there have been 1,035 new factories of various sizes across the country. Among them, there are 12 large factories with capital exceeding 1 million and employing more than 1,000 people! The government has invested a total of 12.85 million levs, mainly for the large railway plan, supporting road construction, and some infrastructure construction. So far, the overall progress is smooth. Next year, we will continue to promote the development of industrialization, and at the same time, we will continue to increase government investment in infrastructure projects. The main project is to continue to complete the railway plan, as well as urban supporting construction, to create favorable conditions for the development of industry and commerce. Ferdinand knew that he was preparing for the competition for the budget for the coming year. He smiled and said, "Okay, the work of the government is still worthy of recognition." After Ferdinand finished speaking, he turned his attention to Defense Minister Sava Mutkarov. In order to control the military, Ferdinand made major adjustments to the army. The original senior generals in the army, most were promoted to the Ministry of National Defense. Sava Mutkarov became the Minister of Defense by virtue of his old qualifications and early resignation. From Ferdinand's point of view, military personnel who were born in the Ministry of National Defense should be professional. Sava Mutkarov is still very grateful to Ferdinand, not to mention that he is also a liberal, but the position of defense minister has always been a civilian, and he has no part at all. Understanding what Ferdinand meant, Sava Mutkarov immediately said, "Your Excellency, our army has just undergone a major reorganization, and the current problem is that most of the weapons and equipment have fallen behind, not to mention the European powers. Even if compared with Greece and Serbia, there is also some distance in firepower. At present, our military industry is still lagging behind. The machinery and equipment in the arsenal is outdated and needs to be updated urgently. And it can only produce guns, ammunition, and small-caliber artillery." Ferdinand thought for a while and said cautiously, "The problem of the arsenal really needs to be solved urgently, and it can be given priority in next year's financial budget. But the issue of army training, you must hurry up and build an elite division as soon as possible." "Don't worry, Your Excellency. Training, we will do it," Sava Mutkarov assured. Knowing that it was his turn to speak, James Padanov said, "Your Excellency, due to the fluctuations in the first half of the year, agricultural production has been somewhat affected this year, and the cultivated area has dropped by 3 percentage points compared with previous years. However, with the promotion of new agricultural technologies, the yield per mu has increased, and in some areas, the yield has even increased by more than 8%. Generally speaking, it is the same as last year." Ferdinand smiled and said, "That's right. Keep working hard and try to reach another level this year." The last to stand up and speak was Chekhov. Although the Minister of Education has the lowest authority, the cabinet ranking is exactly the opposite. This is Ferdinand's trickery, using small to control the big. Constantine, who has the most real power, can't even enter the cabinet. Chekhov, who has the smallest real power, ranks the highest in the cabinet. Chekhov cleared his throat and said, "Your Excellency, the education industry has developed rapidly this year, and the second batch of college students has also successfully entered the school. In addition, 5 new higher vocational colleges in China have begun to recruit students, including 2 normal schools, college, a medical college, and the remaining 2 are general technical colleges. Basically, it can meet the educational needs of Bulgaria." The promotion of literacy education to the society has also made very good progress. The total number of illiterates has dropped by 10%. It is expected that within 10 years, illiteracy can be basically eliminated. Ferdinand nodded with satisfaction. Chekhov's autonomy was lacking, but his execution ability really had nothing to say. Chapter 38, Diplomacy. In the summer and autumn of 1887, Bismarck and Salisbury extended the Mediterranean Agreement to the Balkans. In December, Britain, Italy, and Austria exchanged notes, and the Second Mediterranean Agreement was signed. An alliance aimed at Russia's Near East issue was established. This was the adjustment made by Bismarck to the alliance system, which facilitated the mutual restraint between Britain, Italy, Austria, France, and Russia in the Near East, without causing France and Russia to form an alliance, and ensuring Germany's position in the European continent. Since the late 1880s, the Three Emperors alliance has gradually collapsed, but Germany has established alliances with Russia and Austria. After Bismarck stepped down in March 1890, the successor's foreign policy changed, and the alliance system came to an end. Germany's new line is foreign, and the most important one is that the German-Russian reinsurance treaty is not extended. After Germany tore up the German-Russian reinsurance treaty, Russia's diplomatic situation became increasingly severe, forced to move closer to France, The two countries started alliance negotiations since 1891. Due to mutual distrust between France and Russia, the Franco-Russian alliance was not formally established until 1894. Under the leadership of Germany's new line, in July 1890, the British and German Helgoland-Zanzibar Treaty settled the dispute over the colonial issue between the two countries. Considered at the time a major concession from Germany, the purpose was to draw Britain into the Triple Alliance. From 1890 to 1894, Germany repeatedly urged Britain to expand its obligations under the Mediterranean Agreement. Demonstrations in the Mediterranean showed the world that the four countries are in harmony. In this context, Ferdinand sent Archbishop Clemente to visit Russia with the main purpose, firstly, to appease the mainstream pro-Russian factions, secondly, to improve the relationship between Russia and Bulgaria, and to hug his thighs without paying much. Time is running out, and in a few months PP will step down and Germany will tear up the German-Russian Reinsurance Treaty. If Russia wants to break the diplomatic deadlock, it is logical to win over Bulgaria. In fact, since the establishment of the Three Emperors Alliance, there have been many contradictions, especially the contradictions between Russia and Austria are difficult to reconcile. In 1885, there was an uprising in eastern Rumelia. The people expelled the administrative officials of Ottoman Turkey, announced the merger with the Bulgarian Principality, and Duke Alexander was established as the monarch of the merged country. It was originally just a move for Bulgarian national independence. Under the intervention of European powers, in order to gain control of Bulgaria, it caused the Bulgarian crisis that lasted for 2 years. The Principality of Bulgaria was the main position retained in the Balkans after the Russo-Turkish War of 1878. In 1881, there was an agreement on the unification of Bulgaria in the Three Emperors Alliance, but due to changes in the relationship between Russia and Bulgaria, Russia could not continue to control the Bulgarian puppet regime. Archduke Alexander, a descendant of the nobility of the small German state, is the nephew of the Russian Empress. In 1879, with the support of the Tsar, he became the monarch of the Bulgarian Principality. After Grand Duke Alexander came to power, he gradually expressed dissatisfaction with the arrogance of Russian officials in Bulgaria, and the two sides negotiated many times to no avail. In order to get rid of Russia's control, Grand Duke Alexander's anti-Russian moves became more and more obvious. Although the Austro-Hungarian Empire was in alliance with Russia, it did not want to see Russia's monopoly on Bulgaria, so it and Alexander began to move closer to each other. After the breakdown of the relationship between Russia and Bulgaria, Russia, seeing that it could no longer control the Bulgarian government, began to hinder the unification of Bulgaria, and threatened to withdraw its officers and disintegrate the Bulgarian military power. At the same time, he asked other major powers to jointly put pressure on Bulgaria to force Archduke Alexander to dissolve Bulgaria. At the meeting of the great powers, Austria-Hungary stood on the Russian side under the mediation of Germany, but was resisted by the British, because the German and Austrian positions were not firm. In the end, the two sides reached a compromise. With Archduke Alexander as governor of eastern Rumelia, Bulgaria was virtually unified, and Turkey retained its nominal sovereignty. It's not over yet. The merger of Bulgaria has attracted the prying eyes of small countries such as Greece and Serbia, hoping for territorial compensation. The King of Milan of Serbia visited Vienna in September, hoping that the territory would be supported by Austria-Hungary. When seen at the meeting of the great powers, cannot get support after. In November, Serbia sent troops to invade Bulgaria, but the outcome was unexpected. The Serbian army, which had an absolute advantage, was defeated by Bulgaria. The Bulgarian army took the opportunity to occupy some important towns in Serbia. In order to safeguard its interests in the Balkans, the Austro-Hungarian Empire intervened in the Bulgarian War, forced Bulgaria to withdraw, but excluded Russia. At the same time, the defeat of Serbia also led to the rise of pro-Russian factions, laying a hidden danger for the contradiction between Russia and Austria. Unwilling to fail, Russia planned a coup d'état and overthrew the rule of Archduke Alexander. However, due to the intervention of Britain and Austria, the situation exceeded Russia's control. Ferdinand was established as the new Grand Duke, and the relationship between Russia and Austria deteriorated. The German-Russian relationship was not as good as expected, and conflicts broke out between the two sides over trade issues. The entry of cheap Russian agricultural products into the German market affected the interests of the Junkers aristocrats. Under their intervention, heavy taxes were imposed on Russian agricultural products. Russia also retaliated by imposing heavy taxes on German industrial products, and the German-Russian trade conflict broke out. In November 1887, Germany banned the securities of domestic banks from Russia, and the German capital market was closed to Russia, prompting Russia to invest in France, and the German-Russian alliance began to come to an end. At the end of November 1889, the Bulgarian diplomatic mission arrived in St. Petersburg. The following month, Archbishop Scriment was received by Alexander III, and the 4-year-old diplomatic stalemate between Bulgaria and Russia began to dawn. At the same time, Ferdinand, who was familiar with the face of the foreign powers, was forced to admit that he signed secret agreements with Britain and Austria-Hungary during the Stam government. Britain and Austria have obtained preferential rights to Bulgaria's foreign trade, and both sides only need to pay extremely low tariffs. Considering the industrial gap between the two sides, it is extremely unfair to Bulgaria. At the same time, because the tariffs were mortgaged, the power of Britain and Austria began a new round of penetration into Bulgaria. Paying a heavy price, Ferdinand's government won the support of Britain and Austria, and the relationship between the two sides has been further developed. In the long run, Britain and Austria, by virtue of their industrial advantages, have an advantage in Bulgarian trade, which has attacked the development of the Bulgarian national bourgeoisie. Fortunately, Ferdinand was preparing to develop state capitalism from the very beginning, relying on the inclination of policy, the overall planning of resources and the competition of foreign powers. There is no plan to rely on the bourgeoisie to become a powerful country, otherwise it will be difficult for Bulgaria to develop. Chapter 39, Relations with Russia. In March 1891, when Archbishop Scriment returned from St. Petersburg, he was in high spirits. It could be seen that this trip to Russia went well and he was in a good mood. The superiority of the alliance with Russia has been promoted to people every 3 days, and now cabinet members have to detour when they see him. They didn't have the guts to make a decision without Ferdinand's nod. Seeing that the government's line was not working, Scriment was now eyeing Ferdinand. He is no longer satisfied with only easing relations with Russia, and hopes to further the relationship between Russia and Bulgaria. It is best to establish a solid alliance. His Excellency the Grand Duke, Russia is Bulgaria's natural ally. Since the War of Independence, we have been helped by Russia. Although there were some misunderstandings, it was a problem during the Stam cabinet. For the better of Bulgaria, development, alliance with Russia is imperative. Believe me, I can swear in the name of God. Scriment spoke very passionately, trying to infect Ferdinand with words. It can be seen that Scriment does not understand politics, otherwise he would not have raised it so carelessly at the ministerial meeting. The conflict between Bulgaria and Russia during the Stam period brought Ferdinand to the top, and anyone with a little political savvy would choose to avoid it, so as not to embarrass Ferdinand. Although he was very excited, the crowd did not respond. It's too empty, and there is no specific content at all. It is very important for Russia and Bulgaria, but what about the specific benefits for Bulgaria? If you can't see this, how can you get the support of everyone? Ferdinand took over and said, Mr. Bishop, you are right. The relationship with Russia is indeed very important. The issue is the relationship between Russia and Bulgaria, involving both us and Russia, not unilaterally decided by us. At the same time, we must fully consider international relations, as well as the attitudes of other powers. At least the attitudes of Britain and Austria-Hungary must be taken into account. Facts have proved that Scriment really does not understand politics. He is just a simple pro-Russian faction, and he is too embarrassed for international relations. The position of his cabinet was only given by Ferdinand in order to ease relations with Russia, and he needed to demonstrate Bulgaria's sincerity when he visited, and there were few specific rights. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Dong dong dong. Dong dong. Come in, said Ferdinand, Knowing that no one would disturb a cabinet meeting unless something major happened. Minister Karl hurriedly walked in, went to Ferdinand and said, "Your Excellency, the international situation is about to undergo great changes." News just came from Berlin that on March 17, the Russian ambassador to Germany Paul Shuvalov told the Berlin's proposal to extend the German-Russian reinsurance treaty for 6 years was rejected by the German government. Everyone was shocked. The German-Russian alliance was over, and the international situation was about to face a major reshuffle. Even the politically retarded Schliemann knew that Bulgaria's foreign policy had to be adjusted. Ferdinand thought for a while and said, "This is also expected, but I didn't expect it to come so soon." From the beginning of the German-Russian trade conflict, some people expected it, and then the Three Emperors alliance was dissolved. The reinsurance treaty was made. And now that the old chancellor has stepped down, William II, who urgently needs to prove himself, can't wait. This is to popularize international knowledge for the cabinet. For a long time, Bulgaria's diplomatic relations have been messed up, mainly because the vision is limited to the Balkans, and the international environment has not been clearly understood. Your Excellency, how should we adjust our foreign policy? Mitev, who is in charge of foreign affairs, asked nervously. Ferdinand asked back, "What do you think?" Constantine thought for a while and said, "Your Excellency, until the international situation has stabilized, we should not directly participate. Bulgaria is only a small country, and it has no ability to influence the international situation, so let's adapt accordingly." Ferdinand nodded in approval. If Ferdinand hadn't known the future of history, we'll make the same choice. After all, Bulgaria is only a small country, and one wrong step could lead to doom. Even if the bet is won, the gains will be limited. Historically, since the Constantine government, Bulgaria has flexibly made use of international conflicts. The initial effect was not bad, and it was attracted by various countries. However, in the later period, Bulgaria, which was trying to get both sides, paid a heavy price when two international camps were established. In the Second Balkan War, Russia was dissatisfied with the wavering of Bulgaria and chose Serbia with a firmer position. Likewise, Austria-Hungary had doubts about Bulgaria's position and eventually abandoned Bulgaria. Screment was in a hurry. He also knew that the next international diplomatic situation would be very unfavorable for Russia. The value of the alliance between Russia and Bulgaria will also be greatly reduced, which is unacceptable to him. After a moment of silence, Ferdinand knew that it was too embarrassing for the cabinet to pay attention to them. After all, they were promoted suddenly by Russian Dutch to the shelves and had no experience in this area. Now that the international situation has undergone great changes, it is beyond our ability to intervene where it will go next. Therefore, the general principle is to maintain stability and continue to stabilize the relationship with Britain and Austria. At the same time, we must attach importance to the relationship with Russia and continue to promote the relationship between the two countries. It is also necessary to ease the relationship between the Balkan countries as much as possible and lay the foundation for the subsequent economic development. Ferdinand made a surprising decision. The politically underdeveloped Schliemann was a little stunned. Ferdinand, who had previously opposed the alliance with Russia, has now turned to support. Constantine was the first to react, smiled slightly, and everyone understood and nodded in satisfaction. Bulgaria's mineral resources are poor, and to complete industrialization, it must go abroad. In terms of cost, Russia is the best choice. Ukraine is rich in mineral resources and backward in industrial development. It is also on the coast of the Black Sea. It can not only provide resources for Bulgaria, but also have a vast market. Therefore, the relationship between Russia and Bulgaria will become the next most important diplomatic task for Bulgaria. Up to now, Ferdinand still has some headaches, and the diplomatic performance of the Balkan countries is very surprising. It is a mess. At first, Serbia was pro-Austro-Hungary, Greece and Romania were pro-German, and Bulgaria was pro-Russian. After the outbreak of the First World War, Bulgaria, which was close to the Allies, joined the Allies, and the countries that were close to the Allies joined the Allies one after another. Mr. Screment, you have to work hard for you next time. and go to St. Petersburg again, just in the name of non-governmental exchanges between the two countries. Is there any problem? Ferdinand could not refuse. Skriment said immediately, no, there is no problem. Although he did not understand what was going on in Ferdinand's foreign policy, it turned out to be what he wanted. Chapter 40, Labor Issues. Since 1888, Bulgaria has launched a 5-year plan, and the railway is the top priority. Whether it was the Stam government era or the Ferdinand era, no matter how the domestic situation changed, it did not interfere with the normal construction of the railway. In order to ensure the smooth completion of the railway plan and to save costs, during the Stam period, criminals began to be sent to the construction site as coolies. Stam's cabinet allowed the police to run rampant, initially to crack down on competitors, and later to raise funds. And it did not mean to find a group of cheap labor. With the launch of the rehabilitation work, many false and injustice cases during the Stam period have been clearly investigated, and a large number of innocent people have been released. The railway project is now facing the dilemma of lack of labor. Although Bulgaria is not a large area, it is a fact that it is sparsely populated. Although a large number of farmers went bankrupt before, but due to the advancement of industrialization, it has been digested almost. In some cases, few people are willing to repair the railway, even though the railway workers are paid better. But the railway project in the late 19th century was equivalent to the death project, and work-related accidents were normal. Even if someone is forced to make a living, they can't do it, and if there is a chance, they will find another way to make a living. Now Constantine is worried, there are not enough workers. Even if he has sent all the criminals to the construction site, the shortage of personnel is still serious. In an era when there was no machinery and it was all carried on the shoulders, coolies were indispensable. In order to complete the project on time, the engineers gave a staggering number of at least 50,000 laborers. When this number was reported, Constantine was dumbfounded, which meant that there was still a shortage of 40,000 laborers. There are only over 3 million people in Bulgaria now, and it is almost impossible to make so many railway workers. Since there is no way, it can only continue to report. Chekhov, who was on duty in the cabinet, welcomed an uninvited guest. Constantine came, and he also brought the engineer with him. Seeing that Constantine and his party were at a loss, Chekhov asked in confusion, "Constantine, what's going on?" Constantine didn't care about the family, he went straight to the topic, and said, "Mr. Chekhov, I came to you today mainly for the railway problem." Chekhov asked seriously, "What happened to the railway project?" "No," Constantine said with certainty. Chekhov let go of his dangling heart and said, "God bless it, it'll be fine." "But it's more serious than that." Constantine's next sentence confused Chekhov again. "What's the matter?" Chekhov asked. "Let the engineer tell you," Constantine said embarrassedly. Chekhov said depressedly, "Well, whoever said it is the same." Chief Engineer Loren Holman said with a stern face, "Dear Mr. Chekhov, the railway project is going well now, but we are in big trouble." After hearing this, Chekhov was even more puzzled. Since everything went well, what trouble could there be? Immediately asked, "What's the big trouble?" Loren Holman replied rigidly, "We don't have enough labor." Chekhov was relieved and asked, "How much is missing?" Loren Holman said calmly, "To ensure the smooth completion, at least 43,000 laborers are needed, and the project budget needs to be increased by 50%! What? How is this possible? This is too far from the original plan," Chekhov said in disbelief. "Mr. Chekhov, please believe in our professionalism. These are the results calculated by our technicians after actual measurements." Loren Holman said cautiously. Chekhov still couldn't believe it, and asked suspiciously, "Sorry, Mr. Loren, I'm not questioning your professionalism, but the gap is too big. For this, I can only say sorry." At that time, we underestimated the traffic environment in Bulgaria. While building the railway, we had to invest a lot of manpower to build the road first, and the construction difficulty of the Rila Mountains was beyond imagination, Loren Holman explained. After listening to Loren's words, Chekhov's face suddenly changed color. He knew that this was really a big trouble beyond the cabinet's ability to solve. I saw Chekhov smiled bitterly and said, God bless. Constantine, you really brought a big trouble. Chekhov, I don't want to either. Constantine said embarrassedly, this trouble is too big, as big as whether the 5-year plan can be completed, and it is also an important factor in whether the temporary cabinet can be turned into a regular one. After thinking about it, Chekhov decided to report to Ferdinand. He is now not optimistic that the railway plan can be successfully completed. With the current situation in Bulgaria, it is impossible to gather so many workers in a short period of time. Ferdinand, who had just been free, was enjoying the dance in the palace. Several beautiful girls are performing to their heart's content, and the costumes are all designed by Ferdinand himself. Clear and transparent, with choppy waves on the top, and long legs that are brushed on the bottom. It is full of temptation and beautiful, and Ferdinand doesn't mind coming to a daytime prostitution if he is interested. Not that Ferdinand had just caught a dancer and was about to go further. Suddenly Alice walked in and said shyly, "Your Excellency, Mr. Chekhov and Mr. Constantine, by the way, they also brought 3 strangers with them." Ferdinand said a little unhappily, "I see, I'll go right away." After saying that, Ferdinand let go of the woman in his arms, looked at the shy Alice, and suddenly smiled wickedly, which scared Alice quickly. Just run. The single dog life in the previous life was very decent just after crossing Ferdinand, but it was soon corrupted by the noble life. Although it has not yet reached the point of promiscuity, at least Ferdinand, who was afraid of getting sick, did not participate in the no-cover meeting of the nobles, and of course there was no shortage of women around him. Thinking that there was still business, Ferdinand decided to let Alice go first, and strode towards the main hall. Seeing Chekhov and others, Ferdinand, who was in a bad mood, did not give them a chance to speak. Because Loren Holman was invited by Ferdinand at the beginning, so I met once, so I knew what was going on as soon as I saw him. Asked directly, "You are all here, but what's wrong with the railway project?" Seeing that Ferdinand was in a bad mood, Chekhov didn't dare to say anything, and immediately said, "God bless, the railway project is going well, but now we are short of labor." "Oh," Ferdinand responded, waiting for the following, "The lack of labor for building railways is commonplace, and there is nothing surprising, but it is not normal to come to him for such a small problem." Chekhov thought about it for a while, and then he continued, "According to engineer Loren's calculations, we now need at least 43,000 laborers to complete the project on schedule." After listening to this data, Ferdinand said in disbelief, "What, you kid me? Do you need so many laborers?" Chapter 41, The Introduction of Labor. Seeing Ferdinand getting angry, Loren Holman said, "Respect your Excellency the Archduke, I can answer this question for you." "Oh, then Mr. Loren will give me a reason," Ferdinand said angrily. Loren Holman didn't care about Ferdinand's attitude, and said calmly, "Your Excellency, the railway project has been carried out so far. In fact, we have done a lot of work beyond the railway itself." "Oh," Ferdinand exclaimed in surprise. Loren Holman continued, "In fact, while building the railway, we must also build the road first." Of course, due to the underestimation of the geographical conditions at the time, the difficulty of construction was underestimated. These conditions add up to the current labor gap. Ferdinand understood, his face became normal, and he said calmly, "I understand. Mr. Loren means that in addition to the railway project, we have also added a supporting road network. In addition, is it right? The £10 million budget will also be greatly increased?" Loren Holman said simply, "Yes, Your Excellency. It is estimated that it will increase by about 50%. Of course, if it is only a temporary road, the cost can be lower, but it is not cost-effective." Ferdinand knew about the situation, and immediately the rain turned sunny and said, "Well, okay, I know about this matter. Thank you, Mr. Loren. The people of Bulgaria will not forget your painstaking efforts. The government will solve this problem as soon as possible. You can build with confidence." "Okay, Your Excellency, this is what I should do. Since I don't have anything to do here, and I still have work to do on the construction site, I will retire first." It seems that Ferdinand's next move, it was not suitable for him to participate, and Lauren Holman chose to leave. Watching the three of Lauren Holman leave, Ferdinand turned his attention to Chekhov and Constantine and asked, "What do you think?" Chekhov shook his head and said no. Constantine thought about it and said, "Why don't we buy black slaves? Although there are some moral problems, as long as we can ensure the smooth progress of the railway project, it is worth it." Ferdinand rolled his eyes and said in his heart, "It's a totally rotten idea. You still buy black slaves at any age. Is this a simple ethnic problem in Bulgaria? You can tell just by looking at the skin color. There is no way to assimilate after 100 years." It seemed that something was wrong, and Constantine said embarrassingly, "Oh, this doesn't seem to work. The price of black slaves is too high." Ferdinand almost burst out laughing, "Co-authoring and you know the money." After a while, Ferdinand clarified his thoughts and said, "Since we in Bulgaria have a shortage of laborers, we should focus on foreign countries. We can introduce them to our neighbors, or we can go to the most populous countries in the world to find them. But we must ensure that two principles: first, nationalists can't want it, second, fanatical religiosism can't want it." Both Chekhov and Constantine responded, "Now that Bulgarian factories have sprung up and the government is investing heavily in infrastructure construction, there is a natural shortage of labor in the country, and even the wages of workers have increased a lot. But there are other countries. The Balkan countries do not have many populations, and there are not many idle laborers, but there are many other parts of the world. It is not too far away from the Manchu King dynasty. Except for Ferdinand's estimation, it is estimated that few people will think that there are the most useful workers there. In Eastern Europe alone, the labor force of Russia and Austro-Hungary is greatly wealthy. Hundreds of thousands of people are lost every year, and immigrants go to the Americas, and it is enough if half of them can come to Bulgaria. At this time, Ferdinand thought of ways to increase the population, and said happily, "By the way, Chekhov, your Ministry of Education is busy again, and we still need a group of language teachers. The basic wages of foreign workers are set a little higher than those of domestic workers, and if they learn Bulgarian, it will increase by a little bit. If you are willing to join Bulgaria, then it is the same as the native workers." Chekhov asked in confusion, "Your Excellency, Grand Duke, doesn't this increase the cost? And if the latter project is completed, if they go back and leave Bulgaria, aren't we busy working in vain?" Constantine had the same expression, obviously not understanding Ferdinand's suggestion. Ferdinand said with a smile, "I didn't plan to let them all stay. Some people will definitely leave, but now Bulgaria's economic situation, although not as good as Western Europe, is no better than our neighbors. Also, our construction can be completed in the short term. At least for the next 10 years, we will face the problem of labor shortage. And if they stay in Bulgaria for a few years, many people will choose to stay." Constantine suddenly remembered something, looked at Ferdinand in surprise, and said, "Your Excellency, are you planning to use economic means to deal with ethnic issues?" Seeing that Constantine saw it, Ferdinand didn't deny it, and said with a smile, "Yes, this is just an experiment. It's good to succeed, but it doesn't matter if it fails. It just adds an expense. As long as there is a tenth if only one person stays, we will not be at a loss." The above sentence, the following, broke the leg. Ferdinand gave a big strategy. Even if it was over, he would continue to discuss life with the girls. However, the introduction of labor is definitely not as simple as imagined, and the number is still so large. Even in those days, the governments of various countries did not have strict supervision on the private sector, and they did not need to apply for visas. It takes a lot of energy to send tens of thousands of people to foreign countries alone. There are also food, clothing, housing and transportation all the way, which requires careful organization and arrangement. Constantine took over the task, and the government revolved around this matter. It was so busy that many people's vacations were cancelled. Even the Ministry of Education, which has always been relatively quiet, has now begun to go out to find teachers. The educational level is no longer required, as long as you know a few more languages. Even so, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Whether you can get it together or not depends entirely on luck. Minister Mitev, I am in a very bad mood right now. Since Ferdinand decided to bring in laborers, The government organization was the first to pull in people, and then the unscrupulous capitalists also joined in. That's all tricks, and there is nothing wrong with cheating and abducting. Austria-Hungary and Russia did not feel it yet, and the surrounding neighbors suffered first. Serbia, Montenegro, Romania, and the Ottoman embassies in Bulgaria all sent people to protest. Fortunately, in this era, no one cares about the life and death of the poor, otherwise the diplomatic pressure alone would be enough to give Ferdinand a headache. As the one who justified the loss, Minister Medvedev had to apologize and offer a lot of red envelopes. After a lot of hard work, it was finally settled, and now something happened again. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Bulgarian Labor Protection Law. Not long ago, the Bulgarian capitalist, Bilkiev, went directly to Romania to relocate the factory. Unfortunately, he made too much noise and was detained. Bilkiev is the son of Bulgarian capitalist Evroki Georgiev, one of the founders of the University of Sofia, clever and daring. In the wave of poaching, Bilkiev didn't put up a signboard like everyone else, which he felt was too inefficient. After entering Alexandria, Romania, Bilkiev set his sights on the Weibul paper mill, paid for the local snakes, and found two locals, the Nigold brothers, who worked in the factory. Brother, is what Mr. Bilkiev said true? Little Nicholas asked worriedly. How do I know? But these 800 lei can't be fake. Big Nigust said casually. Well, anyway, our family is like this now. If we don't have money to pay our debts, we will be beaten to death by them. Little Nigust said helplessly. No, at most they will turn us into their slaves and kill us, who will pay them back in the future. Nicholas said comfortingly. 3 years ago, when their father, the old Nicholas, fell ill, the life of their family has become difficult, and they were forced to borrow usury from others. Then the Nicholas family began to repay the debt, from the initial 30 lei to the current 500 lei, during which their brother paid 100 lei. Forget it, as long as Mr. Bill is willing to give the money, we will do it. Anyway, that vampire Dracula is not a good thing, Little Nigust said fiercely. That's right, my brother, that vampire Dracula wants to deduct every lei from us. Maybe going to Bulgaria to make a living might be a good way out, Big Nigust said expectantly. The Nicholas brothers, who had a unified mind, began to lobby for Bill everywhere. Everyone didn't believe it, seeing that under the past friendship, everyone still met Bill. Bill used his 3-inch tongue, and quickly fooled a group of workers, and then issued a month's salary in advance as a deposit. As a qualified capitalist, Dracula is naturally a greedy vampire. Naturally, the workers were hollowed out by Bilkiev, and then secretly ran away with everyone. If it's just this, that's all. As long as you run fast, when it is discovered that he has run back to Bulgaria, no one can do anything about him. However, Bilkiev, who has tasted the sweetness, how can he stop after one vote? He carried forward the nature of a capitalist and directly worked as a labor intermediary, fooling workers from all over Romania, and extracting commissions from them. As it turns out, 19th century capitalists weren't easy to mess with. Bill, who had only made a few votes, was targeted. Unfortunately, he was exposed in the Karakul area and was detained by the local capitalists. With a 3-inch tongue, Bill successfully saved his life, and now the other party is demanding a ransom from Evroki Georgiev. Evroki Georgiev, worried about Bill's safety, approached Foreign Minister Medvedev, no way, who told Medvedev to marry Evroki Georgiev's daughter, and had to come forward to rescue this. Evroki Georgiev obviously didn't plan to pay a ransom of 1 million lei, and even if he did, he couldn't get it together in a short time. Medvedev had a headache. He used his personal relationship to find each other, and the two sides negotiated very smoothly. Bill's safety can be guaranteed, and he doesn't have to worry about his treatment, as long as he pays the ransom. Anyway, the money is a big man and can't be less. In the end, Medvedev tried his best, owed a lot of favors and lost a lot of money to get Bill out. This is the end of the poaching incident. Since then, capitalists in various countries have raised their vigilance, and Bulgaria can no longer poach unscrupulously. Ferdinand's easy days were also over, and a large influx of people brought not only benefits to Bulgaria, but also a lot of trouble. The crime rate has skyrocketed, the conflicts between locals and foreigners have intensified, and the capitalists have begun to act like demons again, unscrupulously deducting wages, and labor disputes have emerged one after another. Some capitalists have even used a large number of foreign labor to save money, laying off domestic workers, etc. In order to mediate disputes, various government departments are dispatched one after another, and they are exhausted. This is also due to Ferdinand's industry, which occupies a dominant position in Bulgaria, and has always kept his duty, so there is no major trouble. Looking at the problems reported in the local newspapers, Ferdinand knew that it was time to introduce a labor protection law. On September 18, 1890, Bulgaria's first law dealing with the settlement of labor disputes, Bulgarian labor law. This law was formulated by Ferdinand with reference to later labor laws and British factory laws. To a certain extent, it is biased towards the working class, and the punishment for labor disputes is astounding. It was considered by later generations to be the first true labor protection law. The article clearly stipulates that the working hours of heavy physical labor shall not exceed 10 working hours. Overtime wages must be paid, and 1 day of paid leave per week must be paid. A minimum monthly salary has also been established, which must not be lower than 7.5 levs, approximately equal to £3, which is divided into hourly wages and is comparable to the current average salary in Bulgaria. When dealing with labor disputes, if the capitalist maliciously defaults on wages and arbitrarily deducts wages, they will face the penalty of direct confiscation of the factory at the most, and will also be accompanied by high fines. Similarly, if a worker maliciously disrupts, framed, and extorted extortion, he or she will face life imprisonment once investigated and dealt with. All illegal acts will be severely punished. However, the law does not protect all groups of people, and many provisions are only aimed at Bulgarian citizens. For example, layoffs cannot be made at will, only for Bulgarian citizens. There is also a minimum wage level, which is the prerogative of the citizens of the country. Migrant workers, if they can speak Bulgarian, the minimum wage protection is only 80% of their own citizens, if not, only 50% of the minimum wage protection. Including the most rest days, working hours. The treatment of domestic citizens and foreigners is also different. And each factory, the number of local citizens must not be less than 60%. It is almost impossible to say that the capitalists recklessly oppress foreigners and show mercy to their own people. When the Bulgarian labor protection law was introduced, there was an uproar in public opinion. The mainstream is naturally praised that it is a big step in the progress of Bulgarian democracy. There are also some scholars who want to ironically claim that the capitalist free market has been destroyed, and no one has responded except for the support of a few capitalists. There are also a small number of Notre Dame sects, who think that the government is not doing enough and does not treat them equally. Unfortunately, their voices are too weak to even be published in the newspapers. Chapter 43, Reform 1. Ferdinand knew very well that the capitalists were greedy, and if they were killed with a stick, God knows what would happen to them. At the same time, capitalists are also weak, and they will compromise if they open a hole. In just half a year, no less than 100,000 foreigners poured into Bulgaria. The sinister Ferdinand naturally chose to sacrifice their interests in exchange for the capitalists' compromise. At the same time, he did not forget to open an opening to encourage foreigners to learn Bulgarian and join Bulgaria. Of course, the main purpose is to promote ethnic integration and increase the population. Labor law, in addition to winning a wave of people's hearts for Ferdinand, there is also an unseen benefit in the short term, dampening the enthusiasm of the working class movement. The working class social democracy, which has not yet been established in Bulgaria, is dead. Although its founder, Bragaev, was killed by Stam's cabinet in 1889 under Ferdinand's butterfly effect. Due to Ferdinand's crossing, in 1890, the number of Bulgarian employees had reached 480,000, of which foreign labor accounted for a quarter, and the economic development rate far exceeded the level of the same period in history. Due to the government's vigorous investment in infrastructure, employment has been increased, domestic demand has been stimulated, and the Bulgarian economy has developed rapidly. Although the number of Bulgarian workers has increased significantly, it has not changed the situation of backward industrial development. In addition to Ferdinand's own industry, most of the factories in Bulgaria are still small workshops, with backward technology and lack of competitiveness, scattered distribution and small scale, and extremely poor ability to resist risks. In order to change this situation, Ferdinand decided to continue to deepen the reform. A small country with a population of only 3.2 million and more than 1,000 large and small factories is a waste of resources to compete for this small market. On September 20th, the royal palace of Sofia was engaged in a big debate to determine the future direction of Bulgaria's economy. In addition to government officials, a small number of Bulgarian economists were invited. Under the hint of Ferdinand, Constantine submitted a proposal for the industry access standards to the government. That is, to set an industry threshold, eliminate some weak capitalists, and artificially restrict the entry of latecomers. Disguised support for corporate mergers and reorganizations to promote the development of monopoly capitalism. If this plan is passed, it means that in the next 5 years, more than 1,000 factories in Bulgaria will be merged or reorganized or closed. Obviously, this plan does not have much market right now. At the end of the 19th century, liberal capitalism was the most popular, and major powers in Europe and the United States were all working hard against monopoly capitalism. In 1890, the United States had just promulgated the Sherman Act to promote monopoly capitalism. No matter how you looked at it, it felt like it was going upstream. Constantine started a war of words. Gentlemen, everyone knows the current predicament of Bulgaria. We are just a small country with a population of less than 3 million and lack of mineral resources. The process of industrialization has come to this point, and many of our industrial raw materials depends on imports. Many factories are backward in management and technology, and their products are seriously lacking in international competitiveness. They can only rely on the domestic market. Last year, the import and export trade deficit was as high as 60 million levs. If things go on like this, how can our economy develop healthily? But Mr. Constantine, the industry access plan has destroyed the free capitalist market, and the state has intervened too much in the market economic order, destroying the fairness of society, and the consequences are unimaginable. Economist Valensoma. Mr. Valen, you are too alarmist. The state's intervention in the market economy is for the normal development of the Bulgarian economy and to eliminate hidden dangers in advance. If you really let it go, why do domestic capitalists compete with international capital? Constantine. Mr. Constantine, we all know that there is no development without competition. What we need to do now is not to promote monopoly, but to raise tariffs to protect the development of national industries. Minister of Industry Kamilev. Mr. Kamilev, how big is the Bulgarian market? Only 3 million people can support industrialization. Is it possible? If we can't do that, we have to rely on the international market. What is the use of raising tariffs other than keeping us out of the international market? Asked Constantine rhetorically. Seeing that no one answered, Constantine struck while the iron was hot and said, Gentlemen, now we have no choice, either give up industrialization, or implement monopoly, reduce internal friction, and force capitalists to innovate in technology and improve product competitiveness. Constantine is right, monopoly is not a good thing for the powers, but it is the best for Bulgaria right now. Chekhov. What is the most suitable? It is nothing more than the best interests of someone. Bullshit! You come and go on both sides, each expressing his own opinions and arguing endlessly. It seems that the reasons for supporting monopoly are stronger, and the opposition is so numerous that it quickly changes, and the smell of gunpowder is getting stronger and stronger. Ferdinand promptly stopped the intensifying quarrel between the two sides. Enough, give me peace. Please pay attention to your identity and do not attack yourself. Only this time, if anyone commits another crime, he will be deprived of his qualifications to participate in the discussion. Seeing that Ferdinand was angry, the two sides feasted. Fortunately, the Congress has been dissolved, otherwise it will be even more lively, Ferdinand thought happily, and at the same time he made up his mind to introduce controversial bills as much as possible before the congressional election. On the one hand, monopoly hinders the development of technology, which has been illustrated by many examples, but on the other hand, it also contains factors that promote the development of technology. 4. Under the conditions of monopoly capitalism, the development of science and technology, the improvement of the quality of the labor force, the expansion of the scale of production and accumulation, and the development of social integration in the production process are all separate from the development of monopoly competition, the concentration of production, associations, specialization, etc. Not open. Ferdinand knew very well that at this stage the best fit for Bulgaria was monopoly, but when Bulgaria develops and grows to a certain extent, monopoly will become an obstacle to economic development. The resistance to reform is somewhat beyond Ferdinand's imagination. The opposition within the government alone is so powerful. After a moment of silence, Ferdinand decided to adopt a roundabout strategy, learning from the American tycoon's protagonist. Having thought of a strategy, Ferdinand hastily ended the government meeting, leaving Constantine behind. Constantine was a little uneasy now, judging from the meeting just now. What Ferdinand explained was a mess. Ferdinand looked at Constantine, who was not in state, and asked, "Mr. Constantine, do you think the industry access plan is feasible?" Constantine said without hesitation, "It's possible." Chapter 44, Reform 2, Food Disturbance 1. Finally signed the contract. Thank you for your support! However, Your Excellency, the resistance is too great. It is difficult for us to obtain support from all walks of life. The government will be very passive, Constantine said hesitantly. Ferdinand nodded, expressed his approval, and then asked, "So, how about splitting the plan? For example, find an industry first as an entry point." Constantine was surprised and said, "If it's just an industry, then we have to face much less resistance." But Ferdinand interrupted Constantine's words later, "There are not so many, but your government can first find an industry to investigate, find out the problem, collect enough evidence, then public opinion, and then carry out reforms." Constantine thought about it, and after a while, he said, "Your Excellency, the Archduke is wise. Ferdinand is very useful, although this flattery is very suffocating." He smiled and said, "Don't be flattering, this is not for you. By the way, you have a lot of work to do next. Reform is reform, but the 5-year plan cannot be affected. The government has a heavy responsibility. Don't worry, Your Excellency, the Ministry of the Interior will do it well." Constantine assured. After leaving the Sofia Palace, Constantine had a headache, even though he agreed just now. In fact, he didn't have much clue. The 5-year plan contained most of the government's energy. Constantine was against the current reform in his heart, and he was really too busy. At the same time, he also agreed with Ferdinand's reasons for reform, and now is the time of least resistance to reform. Interest groups have just been cleaned up by the previous government, and their vitality has been greatly damaged, and they are all smart people who survived. New congressional elections have not yet started, and all power is still concentrated in Ferdinand's hands. If the government enforces reforms, it can still go ahead. The rebound will not be very strong. After all, the butcher knife during the stamp period has frightened the capitalists, and they dare not fight against the government in the short term. But where to start is another tricky question. As the first goal, it must be representative and widely recognized by all sectors of society. The wind is cool after autumn, the rain is cool after autumn, and the weather is cool like autumn. The earth presents a gratifying harvest scene, which makes people feel relaxed and happy. Facing the autumn wind, Constantine walked to the street involuntarily. From time to time, he heard a few hawking noises. The street was full of goods stalls. From the street to the end of the street, the colorful goods on the stalls were dazzling, and even the air was filled with the enticing aromas of belly soup, tinned meat, cheese, grilled meat, tzatziki soup. Constantine suddenly had an idea. What industry is better than the food industry? Food safety is definitely a topic of concern to the whole people. To crack down on illegal businesses and solve hidden food safety hazards, no one can say that there is a problem. Looking at the turbulent Sofia, apart from Constantine, who knows that there will be a government crackdown here in the near future? The issue of food safety has a long history. In the golden age of capitalism in the 19th century, in order to maximize profits, the capitalists were unscrupulous and used various additives at will. As for food safety, as long as there is no immediate problem after eating, it will be sold on the market. What dead beef and rat meat are all pediatrics, and a large amount of mercury compounds are used as preservatives, which is simply murder. On October 15, the Bulgarian government issued the Food Safety Management Regulations, ordering food processing enterprises to rectify within a time limit. The capitalists waited and watched for a few days, and saw that the government did not continue to act, the typical thunder and rain. So what should everyone do? They are not fools, who will have trouble with money. Of course there is one exception, at least Shuanghui Food Group is undergoing a major rectification. Wei Lin, who has inside information, naturally knows that this time the government is going to make a real move. Previously, Shuanghui Food Group had a variety of brands of the same product, and the price gap was huge. The difference between the lowest grade common goods and the highest grade aristocratic specialties was 10 times. Even so, the products exclusively provided by the nobles still sell well. In addition to the nobles who love face, the capitalists are the main consumers. White European aristocrats eat food from their own estates, and the bursting capitalists are also keen to buy estates. They are not fools, mainly because everyone knows that there are problems with the food sold on the market. Obviously, Ferdinand is also a qualified capitalist, and the products sold to the public are naturally maximizing profits, and how to get them cheap. And for the nobles, Ferdinand can guarantee that it is absolutely safe, without adding any chemicals, medicines, mainly because he was taking them himself. Anyway, the cheaper it is, the less guaranteed the quality of the product. It is definitely in line with international standards. Everyone is similar. As for whether it will poison people, it is not within Ferdinand's consideration. Now that Ferdinand is king, from the king's standpoint, Bulgaria needs to increase its population, so food security is an urgent problem to be solved. Constantine's plan can be said to coincide with him. As for whether the rectification of the food industry will affect Ferdinand's industry, it can only be said to be unfounded. No matter how rectified, people always have to eat. Demand in the market will not be greatly reduced, technological innovation and production costs will rise, and the first unlucky will only be small capitalists. A few days later, the Bulgarian Daily reported a story. At the code hardware factory in Sofia, a large-scale incident of food poisoning occurred. A total of more than 80 people were sent to Jaireni Hospital for emergency treatment due to food poisoning. According to news reports, the main cause of poisoning is that a large amount of mercury preservatives are added to the food eaten. In fact, this kind of thing was nothing new in Bulgaria at that time, or even in the whole of Europe, or even the whole world at that time. Wasn't it just a group of workers who were poisoned? And it wasn't that some big man was poisoned. What's so amazing? Poisoning is poisoning. There is something amazing, and not all of these people died, not even a single one. Not even one person died, and they were sent to the hospital for emergency treatment. What happens every day? Can this be considered big news? Well, this kind of thing is not really news at all. In the past, if food poisoning occurred, the workers would be left to fend for themselves. Now the capitalists have sent them to the hospital for rescue, although they were forced by the labor law. This is also a great improvement. The news media are too lazy to report because most of the workers are poor and do not buy newspapers. But this time, the situation was different. The Bulgarian Daily published the news in the most prominent position. Chapter 45, Food Safety Disturbance 2. It's fine if it's just ordinary reports. Anyway, although the media reported little in the past, it's not completely absent. The key is the Bulgarian Daily, which actually carried out a follow-up report, pointing out the purpose of adding mercury to food, the prevalence of this phenomenon, and detailed introduction of its hazards. Dozens of commodities such as cheese, sausage, and canned food are also listed, all of which contain a large amount of mercury additives. As a result, those Bulgarians who were in the happiness of Schenken suddenly found that their good life seemed to be no longer available. Vicky entered the house excitedly, and said excitedly, "Eileen, look what I bought back." Good Spanish chorizo! What? Vicky, have you read today's paper? Do you know what mercury compounds are? That's heavy metal. Come to think of it, we've eaten metal in our stomachs. God, this is really scary. Will this cause irreversible damage and even affect our children? Why do you still want to buy? Aaron said nervously. Similar stories continue to be staged in countless families in Sofia. For a time, the food that needs to be stored for a long time in Bulgaria is not easy to sell. A spectacle was staged on the streets of Sofia, with slightly wealthier families walking out of their homes and throwing away all the food they bought that could be stored for a long time. The garbage heaps have now become food concentration camps, which are cheap for the beggars on the streets. Naturally, such reports impede the fortunes of the capitalists and will usher in revenge, throwing feces at the door of the newspaper office and sending bullets to the editorial department belonged to the pediatrics department. And soon another big news happened. In the early morning of November 1st, a strange man dropped a bomb into a Bulgarian daily newspaper. However, as it happened in the early morning, there were no casualties. However, the move did not scare the Bulgarian daily, but angered them and all sectors of society at the same time. Upon receiving the news, the Sofia police immediately provided security protection for the Bulgarian daily, arrested the suspects, and began to send people to focus on monitoring the capitalists whose interests have been damaged. The next day, the front page of the Bulgarian daily published an article, "Come on the terrorists, we are waiting." In the article, the editor of the Bulgarian daily reviewed the cause and effect of the incident, from the dung at the door to the final bomb attack, and then focused on the bomb attack, equating illegal capitalists with terrorists. He then said that he and his colleagues are also afraid of death, and at the same time they are full of love for life. The Bulgarian daily will never compromise on the safety of Bulgarian people, freedom of speech, and the moral character of a journalist. With the publication of this article, the entire public opinion community was outraged, and they expressed their support to the Bulgarian daily. At the same time, in order to demonstrate their sense of social responsibility, they also joined the denunciation of such incidents. As a result, more and more problems have been disclosed. From the earliest mercury compounds, it has expanded to the pigment extracted from coal tar, aniline violet, and dozens of additives, large and small, have been exposed. The problem of food safety has been enlarged, from the initial list of a dozen or so in Bulgarian daily, and now it covers almost all the commodities on the market. Experts and scholars from Bulgarian universities suddenly discovered that they had a new role to play, and they came out one after another to provide theoretical support for these reports. Some scholars have shouted that as long as the food safety problem is solved, the average life expectancy in Bulgaria can be increased by 10 years, which has added fire to public opinion. For a time, the Bulgarian food processing companies became harassed, and all sectors of society demanded the government to take measures to crack down on illegal capitalists. It should not be called terrorist capitalists. Since the Bulgarian daily equates terrorists with food capitalists, the term terrorist capitalist came into being and became synonymous with unscrupulous businessmen. Amid all the shouting, the cold winter of food processing enterprises is coming. A large number of products are produced, and they cannot find a market. They are piled up in warehouses waiting to get moldy. At the same time, thanks to the labor protection law, capitalists cannot lay off employees without authorization. Under the pressure of public opinion, no one dares to report to the government now. If the workers are dissatisfied during the government investigation and leak the situation of the factory, they will not be treated as a model by the government. The capitalists gnashed their teeth in hatred for the Bulgarian daily, and even more wished to be ashes as the mastermind who dropped the bomb to cause trouble. Powerful capitalists are fine and can bear losses, however, they are suffering from a group of small capitalists, who can only hold on to their teeth. The clear-headed ones are already looking for a way back. They know that things are so big now that if the government doesn't find a few scapegoats, it will not be able to explain to the public opinion. Chloe Ivan, a capitalist who runs a slaughterhouse in Sofia, has been restless since the food safety crisis broke out. God, this is so bad. Damn Bulgarian daily newspapers, they're all sons of bitches, and I didn't offend you, so why bother? And that bomb-dropping idiot is full of mucus. It's better not to let me know who you are, or I will definitely make you regret it. Now I can hear him more than once every day, scolding the Bulgarian daily for being nosy, and of course, the idiot who dropped the bomb. However, Chloe Ivan is still very thoughtful. The first time he appeased the workers, he began to find a way back. Chloe Ivan is very clear that if such a big thing happens, the government will definitely crack down on it, and it will never be so easy to pass the test easily. As for food safety, he, Chloe Ivan, is also a capitalist, and water-injected meat is naturally standard. And how could slaughterhouses run out of meat every day? Naturally, chemical additives are not used less often, which is what everyone does anyway. Chloe Ivan activated all his network, no matter what price he was willing to pay. But unfortunately no one in the government dared to take it. Chloe Ivan knew that this time the trouble was big, and if he didn't deal with it quickly, I'm afraid it would be difficult to get out later. He immediately started looking for a next home, and he didn't care about the price anymore. As long as someone was willing to take over and he could settle the trouble later, everything else was easy to say. Unfortunately, in the current situation in Bulgaria, it is too late for everyone to get out. Who would jump into the pit? After all, food capitalists equals terrorist capitalists, and people in the industry are too busy to take care of themselves. Even if some people in the outside world want to covet this cheap, they must also take into account the name of terrorist capitalists. Chapter 46, The End of Food Safety Turmoil. It's not that no one dares to take over. At least Shuanghui Food Group is very interested. Chloe Ivan is very good at doing things. Although the business is not very big, he has a lot of communication. Through the introduction of a friend, he got on the line with an executive of Shuanghui Food Group. After some bargaining, Chloe Ivan still sold the slaughterhouse at an ultra-low price of 10,000 lei. Of course, the merged enterprises are far more than the slaughterhouse of Chloe Ivan. In about the same time, Shuanghui Food Group has merged more than 10 factories, large and small, and the hardware foundation of the monopoly group is already in place. In Bulgaria, where the food industry is mourning, Shuanghui Food Group has had a very good life and still has room to expand. Due to the preparations made in advance, several inferior products were stopped and the inventory was gone. Even if it isn't stock, it can be sold overseas through Volvo channels. Now the products in hand are all qualified. Waylin also openly invites all sectors of society to supervise, and welcomes experts and scholars to test. Moreover, after the low-end products were lowered, the sales of mid to high-end food products increased rapidly. Under Ferdinand's advice, Shuanghui Food Group took cheap but not good as the core of its propaganda, and advertised everywhere to instill this concept in the Bulgarian people. The frightened middle class immediately became loyal fans of Shuanghui Food Group, especially the products specially offered by nobles, which immediately became popular. After all, the 19th century was still an era of aristocracy, and no one dared to mess with the supply of noble goods. The influence of poisoning 1,000 civilians is not comparable to that of poisoning a noble. Shuanghui Food Group also advocated for the government to issue a food safety law to regulate the safety and hygiene standards of the food industry. Food processing companies took the initiative to ask the government to legislate, which instantly detonated public opinion. For a time, Shuanghui Food Group became synonymous with conscientious enterprises. Taking the opportunity, Waylin simply stripped all inferior products from the group's business and set up several leather bag companies to produce them. From now on, all the food produced by the factories of Shuanghui Food Group around the world will be qualified products, which will lay the foundation for the future food empire. The food safety turmoil is intensifying, and everyone knows the storm is coming. Just after Chloe Ivan sold the factory, within half a month, the police seized more than 50 food processing enterprises, large and small, and arrested dozens of unscrupulous businessmen. Since there are no laws on food safety in Bulgaria, their handling becomes a problem. If it is customary, they only need to pay a little money to settle it, and there is no need to close the factory and arrest people. But now, under the pressure of public opinion, no one dares to let it go. Under the expectations of the public, the government soon issued a draft of the Food Safety Management Law, but the specific implementation standards have been controversial again. The standards are set too high for food processing companies, and even if they barely meet the standards, the prices are not acceptable to ordinary people. The standard is set low, and I am afraid that the public will not accept it. The capitalists in the food processing industry are not novices, and now they are naturally eight immortals crossing the sea, each showing their magical powers, bribing experts, scholars, and newspapers to guide public opinion, spending a lot of money on government public relations, and trying to lower standards. And the capitalists who are deeply involved in it are using all means to try to reduce the penalty clauses in an attempt to escape the disaster. Obviously, they were wrong this time. How could Constantine, who is looking for a breakthrough, let go of this opportunity? In order to quell public opinion, Ferdinand instructed the government to hold a hearing, invited relevant experts, scholars and news media to participate, and also selected several representatives from all walks of life. At the hearing, Constantine, on behalf of the government, read out the draft of the newly formulated Food Safety Management Law. Mr. Constantine, is this standard too high? Can it really be done? If most companies can't meet it by then, what should we do? A reporter asked suspiciously. Constantine said confidently, "Don't worry. These standards are made after our market research. At present, some companies on the market can do it, and it is technically possible, and the cost will not be large." Increase. Korbiff, the capitalist, objected, "But most businesses can't do it." Constantine replied forcefully, "So what does it matter? Our purpose is to provide the people with safe and secure food. If most companies can't do it, let the market go to powerful companies. The winners will be eliminated. This is the law of nature." But what about production capacity? Our company cannot be built in one fell swoop. It needs to be improved gradually to meet market demand, Korbiff said excitedly. Constantine smiled and said, "This is absolutely nothing to worry about. Most food processing techniques are not difficult, and it only takes a few months to expand production capacity. I believe that for the safety of life, the quality of life in the short term is enough. The decline is acceptable to the people. As for gradual improvement, sorry, people can't wait. Our government can't continue to let everyone eat chronic poison." As soon as Constantine's voice fell, there was thunderous applause. Seeing this, Korbiff continued to argue weakly, "But this will create a terrible monopoly. Think about the entire Bulgarian food market, which is monopolized by one or a few companies, and the market will be stagnant by then. How terrible it will be seen." Before Constantine could speak, Elko took the lead and asked Korbiff angrily, "No matter how terrible the scene is, it can't be worse than now, you greedy devil. At least the food we eat is safe, the safety of life is guaranteed, and there is no need to worry about going to see God at any time like now." The thunderous applause sounded again, and Elko's words expressed everyone's heart. "I don't know who shouted, 'The greedy devil, get out.'" He was immediately echoed by everyone, and shouted in a mess, "The greedy devil, get out." Seeing that he was very angry and frightened, Korbiff fled, and he didn't care about the purpose of today's visit. The next procedure went very smoothly. During this time, everyone was frightened by the news reports, and felt that no matter what food except eggs, they felt unsafe. The rich are fine. They can simply go to the countryside to buy raw materials and process them themselves, or go to Volvo to buy food specially provided by the nobles. What's more, they simply switch to egg food, which caused the price of egg food to skyrocket. It's hard for ordinary people. High-end food can't be bought. Eating ordinary food is like eating poison, and losing appetite for a long time. After the promulgation of the Food Safety Management Law, Bulgaria has completely banned unqualified food from entering the market. The police became busy, seizing substandard goods everywhere and arresting unscrupulous businessmen. In order to meet the living needs of the people, the government also purchased a large number of raw materials from the countryside and brought them to the market. For the safety of ordinary people, everyone has to process food by themselves. Fortunately, Shuanghui Food Group has long been prepared, and has reserved a large number of qualified food in advance, and put it on the market, which has calmed down this storm. Taking advantage of the opportunity to rectify the food processing industry, Ferdinand has in fact completed the monopoly of the Bulgarian food industry. Chapter 47, Reform 3, Population, Agriculture. Food is food to safety first. Solving the problem of food safety, on the surface, is to crack down on unscrupulous businessmen and provide a basis for the development of monopoly. Only Ferdinand himself knew that the deeper reason was to accelerate population growth. A country with a population of more than 3 million cannot become a strong country. Although no one has counted it, Ferdinand can be sure that the Bulgarians distributed all over the world, even if they are added together, will definitely not exceed 10 million. In the entire Balkan region, the current Bulgarian population is roughly in the range of 6 million to 8 million. Compared with the European powers, in the same period, France has a population of more than 38 million, Germany has a population of nearly 50 million, and the Bear has a population of 120 million. The population of Bulgaria is only 3.5 million, which is not enough to be 1/10 of that of the great powers. Therefore, the population problem is the most serious core problem for Bulgaria to develop and grow in the future. To Ferdinand, every Bulgarian was precious. How to increase the population? Ferdinand thought for a long time, and conducted a field investigation on Bulgaria. Due to the stability of the situation, the rapid development of the domestic economy and the stable life of the people, Bulgaria's birth rate has greatly increased. The birth rate of Bulgaria in 1885 was 4.07%, and in 1889 the birth rate had gradually risen to 4.25%. From the statistics of the first half of the year, it can be optimistically estimated that the birth rate in 1890 will be between 4.36% and 4.39%. The Bulgarian population mortality rate, 2.65% in 1885, 2.78% in 1889, including secret executions, 1.01% in the first half of 1890, excluding migrant workers. From the current situation, Bulgarian folk customs are relatively conservative. The enthusiasm for having children is still very high, as long as the economic conditions allow. Everyone is still willing to raise a few more. Ferdinand knew that the state still has great potential to be tapped. Compared with Russia at the same time, the birth rate of the population was 5.29% in 1864, and it has maintained a birth rate of about 5% for many years, which is far worse. The same is true for the death rate. Compared with the great powers, Britain and France are basically controlled at about 2%. If the casualties of the maintainers of the colonies are not considered, this number is even lower. However, the survival rate of babies, Ferdinand can hardly believe the survey data. The author can't believe it either. Not too low, but too high. Statistics are based on the survival rate of infants who survived 1 year old. In 1889, the Bulgarian infant survival rate was 85.7%. While the same period, Austrian murder was 74.4%, France was 82.6%, and Germany was 77.4%. The countries with the highest survival rates are Ireland and Norway, both exceeding 90%. Ferdinand before the crossing did not believe that these data were true, but after the actual statistics in Bulgaria, he had to accept this fact. The above data comes from the Paul Gray statistical chronology. There is no good way for traversers to increase the population, except to encourage fertility. Ferdinand didn't study medicine in his previous life, so he couldn't get involved in medical treatment. The medical talents are still studying in school. To improve the medical level in Bulgaria in the short term, Ferdinand said that the traveler is not omnipotent, and he is really powerless. Before Ferdinand's crossing, the population of many areas entered negative growth, and many people were not interested in having children. There is only one group that is flocking to it. In the royal palace of Sofia, The Minister of Agriculture James Ferdinand was caught by Ferdinand and sprayed. "This is the result of your Ministry of Agriculture. The work of the past 2 years, idiot. Rice bucket. James Ferdinand looked at the furious Ferdinand and thought, no problem. Isn't it always like this? Why is the Archduke so angry today? Not. Fortunately, Ferdinand did not know what James was thinking, otherwise the consequences would be unpredictable. Looking at the documents lying on the ground, and looking at James with a blank face, Ferdinand just suppressed his anger and came out again. He scolded sharply, "Humphrey, James, you idiot. I ask you, what did you do with the money allocated to your Ministry of Agriculture?" James is about to break out in a cold sweat now, and he said nervously, "Your Excellency, some of them are used to promote new technologies, and most of the funds are directly allocated to the local government to increase food production." Ferdinand sneered and said, "Hee, James, you idiot, apart from promoting new technologies, does your Ministry of Agriculture have any achievements? Funding is allocated to the localities, and then, is it for the construction of water conservancy projects, or for the transformation of agricultural industrialization? None. Look at what's written on it: repair the rivers, strengthen the rivers, the Danube, the Maritsa, and the Struma. Don't you know the geographical distribution of these rivers? What about Montana? Did the river flood the Stara Mountains? You idiot. Even if you want to manage the river, you still have financial allocations. Has there been any report from the local government? The funds for the construction of water conservancy projects have been swallowed up like this. What's even more ridiculous is that my Minister of Agriculture came out to endorse the worms below!" Hearing this, James was already in a cold sweat. He didn't even notice such an obvious problem, and only treated it as a routine. The report below was approved directly without verification, and millions of levs of huge sums of money were wasted by myself. James said tremblingly, "Your Excellency the Grand Duke, this is my dereliction of duty. Please relieve me of my duty." After speaking, James breathed a sigh of relief. Originally, a member of his cabinet did not have much real power. Ferdinand did not let him be responsible for other work except the Ministry of Agriculture. James was still a little dissatisfied. "Now, there is only happiness left. It turns out that I am really a waste." Ferdinand looked at the decadent James and knew what had happened just now, which hit him a little bit. After all, he was less than 30 years old and could not bear such a lot of pressure. He has already decided to retire, but Ferdinand can't let James resign now. He is not Emperor Chongzhen, and changing the cabinet can be like a revolving lantern. A cabinet has been dismissed, and it has only been a few months. As long as there are no major problems, Ferdinand does not intend to replace the new cabinet until the election of the new cabinet. Forget it. It seems that the Ministry of Agriculture is not suitable for you. It just so happens that the government is going to set up a Ministry of Information. I heard that you used to be a propagandist, and your professional counterpart should be a minister in the past. Ferdinand comforted. James looked at Ferdinand gratefully. He knew that this was to take care of his face. The main task of the news department was to supervise newspapers. His minister is a dispensable existence, and everything is done according to the regulations, which is basically an idle job. After thinking about it, James' book business burst into anger and said excitedly, "Your Excellency, Grand Duke, I'm really not suitable for politics, and Bulgarian University is more suitable for me. Pass on my agricultural knowledge to the next generation, or do scientific research, would make more sense." Ferdinand looked at the angry young James, and said helplessly, "Okay, you can go if you want." It happens that Bulgaria also lacks agricultural experts. The position of the cabinet is reserved for time. You can't put it away. Treat yourself as an ordinary scientific researcher, organize scientific research teams, and go deep into the countryside for on-the-spot investigation and research. I hope you will contribute to the development of Bulgaria in the field of scientific research. Yes, Your Excellency, don't worry, I swear in the name of God, I will work hard, James said excitedly. Chapter 48, Agriculture, Inspection. After James was dismissed, Ferdinand lay helplessly on the teacher's chair, and Alice rubbed his forehead lightly for him. The small temple is very demonic, and there are more than 8 kings of Czechia. This sentence fully describes the current situation in Bulgaria, which is the result of cleaning up a lot of moths before. The problems in Bulgarian agriculture are far from being as simple as they seem. They are just corruption or misappropriation of public funds. The core problem is that agriculture has not attracted the attention of bureaucrats. The 5-year plan is unfolding like fire, like the railway plan that is the most difficult and most valued. So far, there have been no major problems, and even the most chaotic phase of the stamp period has not been affected. All local governments have made every effort to support railway construction, demolition and land acquisition, material transportation. Many local governments organize manpower and help them impermanently. Anyway, Ferdinand has not found anyone who dares to hold back. Ferdinand couldn't think of a way to change the ideas and concepts that the bureaucrats had in their minds for a while. Seeing that Ferdinand was in a bad mood, Alice, who was also a secretary and maid, was also annoying. He suggested, "Grand Duke, why don't you go out for a walk?" "Go out for a walk? Yes, it's time to go out for a walk," Ferdinand said with great joy. With one word, the dreamer was awakened, and the confused Ferdinand suddenly found a way. In the history of the original time and space, the Soviet Union also faced this problem when it implemented the first 5-year plan. It was not until the first half of 1929, when Stalin personally inspected the countryside and urged the work, that the collectivization of agricultural socialism in the Soviet Union was in full swing. In just 2 months in the Soviet Union, 10 million peasant households joined the collectivization, accounting for half of the country's peasant households, although there were many problems in the middle. The Soviet Union's agricultural reform was generally successful. Bulgaria's problem is not as serious as the Soviet Union. Ferdinand only intended to carry out agricultural reforms, but he did not touch private ownership of land and did not harm class interests. It snowed heavily in the sky, and everything was white. Only the pine trees were still as bright green, and the snowflakes fell on it, like white flowers. In February 1891, Ferdinand set off from Sofia and set off on a 3-month tour of the country in the severe cold. Starting in the northwest direction, Fiddy set off with 1,000 guards, and the first stop was Vlaza State. Vratsa is a city in northwestern Bulgaria and the capital of Vratsa Oblast. It is located on the northern slope of the western section of the Balkan Mountains, where the Leva River flows into the plain. The geographical location is superior, with natural gas, chemical industry, cement, cotton textile, silk textile, cast iron, copper smelting, fertilizer, wood processing and other industries, and agriculture is rich in wheat and oats. The importance of Vratsa Oblast in Bulgaria cannot be overemphasized. In parallel time and space in 1974, urea accounted for 96% of Bulgaria's total national output, pulp accounted for 24.8% of the country, cement accounted for 23% of the country, and cotton accounted for 19% of the country. In terms of agriculture, the state has the 3rd largest production of wheat and oats in the country, the 4th largest production of poultry eggs, and the 8th largest production of milk. In particular, it is worth mentioning that Bulgaria's Kozloduj atomic power station, which was built near the village of Kozloduj in Fraka region, is the first atomic power station in the Balkans and the whole of southeastern Europe. It is impossible for Ferdinand to ignore it. But now the state of Fraka is not as brilliant as later generations. The industrial development has just started, and the agricultural development is seriously lagging behind. Ferdinand's surprise attack stunned the bureaucrats in Fraka state. Since Sofia was only a few days away, they had not had much time to prepare when they were informed. This time, Ferdinand was not looking for their bad luck. Whenever he went to a place, he would send people to inspect the factory and go to the countryside in person. When encountering a problem, he will directly raise it and order the local government to solve it. What are bureaucrats? Ferdinand in the previous life did not miss it. Without pressure, there is no motivation. Among them, catering to the political requirements of superiors is their main motivation for behavior. Wajenivanov, the governor of the Vratsa region, is a new bourgeois bureaucrat. Since he came to power, the industry in Fraka state has developed rapidly, with an annual growth rate of more than 10%, and has been commended by the government for many times. So even if he was from the Liberal Party and was a die-hard supporter of Stambulov, he was not replaced by the new government. Wajing Ivanlov said sharply, "Okay, gentlemen, let's get ready now. The Grand Duke is coming soon. I don't want him to see a messy Vlaza, who will be when something goes wrong. Don't even think about it." "Don't worry, Governor, we will do it," everyone answered in unison. It is enough to see his prestige. If Ferdinand saw this scene, he would definitely shout Mountanism. On February 18th, Ferdinand came to Fraca with a large group of horses and was warmly welcomed by the people. The first image the city gave him was clean and tidy. Ferdinand wouldn't be surprised if it were Fraca in the 21st century. But now it's the 19th century, and cities all over the world are a mess, dirty, messy, and bad. There is also the saying that the car and wine stinks in London, and cleanliness has not been paid attention to by people. I have to say that Wajing Ivanlov's flattery is right. Since Ferdinand took the throne, he has issued orders for political cleanliness many times. At present, only Sofia has been fully implemented. Ferdinand graciously received Wajing Ivanlov and attended the welcome banquet they organized. Of course, he just went to show one face, said less than 10 words, and left in a hurry. After all, the identity gap is too big, and it is difficult to play happily together. Wajing Ivanlov, you did a great job. Ferdinand summoned Wajing alone and said, Wajing Ivanlovly, and said, "Don't dare, I just followed the orders of Your Excellency the Grand Duke, and I just did my essential work." Later generations of Westerners are very confident, and they are very direct and do not like modesty. In the 19th century, however, their self-confidence had not exploded, at least with respect to those of higher status. Ferdinand smiled and said, "If you can carry out my orders perfectly, you are a talent, but what I see now is only part of it, and I look forward to your performance in other aspects." Wajing Ivanlov was first happy, and then surprised. The order of the central government, Wajing believes that it is still very good. However, it is difficult to say whether it can meet Ferdinand's requirements. "There is still some secret regret in my heart. If I had known earlier that the Grand Duke was coming to inspect, I would definitely have done better. How come there are so many leaders in later generations who want to inspect everywhere? Is it okay to stay in the office?" Ferdinand didn't understand it very well before crossing, and thought it was just a show. After being a king for more than 2 years, Ferdinand found that it was necessary to show off, at least to give the following enough pressure. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49. Visit. Ferdinand did not stay long in Fraca, and set out on his journey again the next day. The village of Koyunar in Fraca region is still just an ordinary small mountain village, poor and backward, and there is no shadow of the first Bulgarian village in later generations. Ferdinand hid his identity and came quietly with a few guards. It was noon now, and Ferdinand came to the only restaurant in the village, which also worked part-time as a grocery store and a tavern. Through chatting with people, Ferdinand knew that the boss's name was Kardardilov, a middle-aged man in his 40s. It can be seen that he is optimistic, although the business of the store is not very good. Ferdinand instructed the guards to order their own dishes. He ordered a yogurt, a piece of bread, and a local salad made of onions, green peppers, celery, and bamboo shoots. It was lunch. Taste, not to mention, Ferdinand could only swallow it reluctantly. The seasonings were only salt and jam. Apart from guaranteeing the original ecology, he didn't find a trace of delicious food. After reluctantly taking a few bites and patting his stomach, Ferdinand couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Carter, is there nothing else here?" Kardardilov heard Ferdinand's question and said quickly, "Oh, God, dear guest, of course. You see, these snacks are brought back from Vlaza by my son. What do you want?" "Here there's ham, sausage, canned food, and fries." Ferdinand asked suspiciously, "Wait, Carter, you have so many products. Why don't you sell them? Just write a few more names on the board. It's very simple. Boss Carter immediately replied, "Oh, sorry, dear guest. You are well informed and must know that some time ago, Bulgaria has cracked down on food safety all over the country, and now the prices of these commodities have gone up. Our village of Koyuner is just a small place. Everyone is a bunch of poor people. At first, few people could afford it, and now everyone can't afford it. I only bought this batch of goods more than 3 months ago." I explained the price increase to them. They didn't believe it. They said I was lying. When I got angry, I took them off the shelf. "Carter, you're lying again. How can prices double at one time?" I went to Fratsa when I was young. There are poor people in the city, and their lives are not much better than ours. According to you, they are afraid they will starve to death," said an old man in his 60s among the guests. The old man was very energetic, and his clothes were a little old, but they were clean and tidy without patches. Ferdinand could see that his life should be considered a good one. Boss Carter said with a look of injustice on his face, "Master Frank, you know, when did Carter lie? It was originally the price. If you don't believe me, ask this gentleman." The old man called Frank rolled his eyes and said, "Of course I know what you were like in the past, but now it's different. It's gone bad since you started business. There are a few businessmen who don't lie." Seeing Frank's life and death, Boss Carter jumped with anxiety. Ferdinand understood the cause and effect. He took a can of beef, looked at the production date, and immediately understood. Ferdinand smiled and said, "Mr. Frank, you have indeed wronged Boss Carter this time." Frank looked at Ferdinand blankly. He was helping him. How could he say that he was wrong? Ferdinand continued, "Judging from the production date above, it was produced 6 months ago. If Carter had bought it 3 months ago, it would have been worth the price. At that time, many low-quality goods on the market were seized and there were shortages everywhere. So the price is a bit high." Frank still asked with some doubts, "Sir, according to what you said, prices outside have really risen so much now?" Ferdinand said calmly, "No, I said it 3 months ago. Now that the market has returned to normal, the overall price increase should not exceed 10%!" Boss Carter said excitedly, "Master Frank, now you should believe it. I really didn't lie to you." Frank tilted his head and said nonchalantly, "Oh, God, Carter, you're such an idiot. Didn't you hear this gentleman? That was 3 months ago, and it's back to normal now. You're still pressing the price at the time was sold. Doesn't it still explain the problem?" Boss Carter said excitedly, "However, my purchase price is so high, if the price is reduced, I will pay." Frank smiled and said, "That's your business. Isn't it normal to lose money in business? By the way, you should try to sell it as soon as possible, or keep it for yourself, or if it expires, then shit!" Seeing the conversation between the two, Ferdinand understood that Frank had no opinion on Carter, but simply hated businessmen. Although the words were unpleasant, he still reminded Carter to sell the goods as soon as possible. Ferdinand smiled and asked, "Mr. Frank, how was your village's harvest last year?" Frank said with a smile, "Guest, you are joking. It's not the same as it is. Let's live it." Ferdinand asked suspiciously, "Isn't it promoting new agricultural technology? Why isn't it increasing production?" Boss Carter said, "Firstly, why didn't you increase production? You just wanted to make trouble for some people, and didn't go to school." Frank seemed to have a sore foot stepped on. "Go, Carter has nothing to do with you here." The guests laughed. "You know that agricultural technological innovation doesn't happen overnight." "I'm timid," the old man, and the technician sent from above didn't explain it clearly, so I plan to wait and see. Ferdinand smiled and said, "Understood. You are mature and prudent." By the way, I looked at the lack of irrigation channels on your side. How to solve the problem of agricultural water use? After listening to Ferdinand's question, Frank said helplessly, "What else can we do? God bless us. We have had good weather here in recent years." The guest you said about repairing the ditch is not that simple. Don't look at it. Our conditions are good this time, but to solve the water problem, the amount of engineering alone is not what we can afford. Ferdinand nodded cautiously and continued to ask, if the government comes forward to organize, are you willing to participate? Frank smiled and said, the guests are joking. If the government is willing to come forward, how can we refuse? I don't know about other places, just in our village, if the problem of agricultural water use is solved, at least 1/3 of the land can be reclaimed. One out. Ferdinand nodded with satisfaction. Since the people are willing to support it, the Water Conservancy project plan can be started. Frank's expression suddenly changed, and he asked in surprise, guest, is it from the government? What? It's not like that, Ferdinand asked back. Frank said quickly, like, so? There are rumors that the government will organize the construction of water conservancy projects. Is this true? Ferdinand nodded and said, there is indeed a plan. Frank asked happily, God forbid, can we start from our side? What's the matter, old man, aren't you timid? Don't wait and see this time? Ferdinand joked. Frank exclaimed, God, oh, no, what's the risk of building a water project? We're not going to suffer anyway. Besides, in the past year or two, our life has been much better. Your Excellency the Grand Duke has done a good job. Taxes are much lighter than before. It used to be that we had to pay labor to build the railway, but it was cancelled and it became a fundraiser. Everyone's pressure is naturally much less. Ferdinand smiled and said he knew, but he was very useful in his heart, thinking, this is all made by Lao Tzu. Of course it is clear. You think I don't want to use free labor. It's not because there are water conservancy projects. Anyway, it's better to have you participate voluntarily than to force it. Ferdinand joked and said, however, Frank, you can't run away this time. The principle of this water conservancy project is that the government provides explosives and some machinery, and you can only rely on yourself for the rest of the labor. Great effort. Frank's face stiffened, then he laughed again, and said, there is no problem with this. The entire Bulgarian water conservancy project requires an astronomical amount of labor. I can't think of any other way except for everyone to go into battle together. Yes, the Ministry of Agriculture estimates that to complete the water conservancy projects in the country, hundreds of millions of workers will be needed. Even if the young all over the country join the battle, it will take several years of work. In this regard, apart from your own efforts, the government can do the same thing. Not much, Ferdinand said cautiously. So much? Carter exclaimed. Frank glared at Carter and said, what a fuss. We are good here. If everything goes well, it is estimated that it will take a year or two to repair. If the conditions are bad, it is not surprising that it will be repaired for 10 or 8 years! After the chat was over, Ferdinand declined Frank's invitation and left directly. To a certain extent, Bulgarians and Chinese are somewhat similar. They both love their families and attach great importance to land. Until later generations, if they were not forced to help, they would not leave their hometown to go out to work. After the merchants became rich, many people liked to go back to their hometowns to buy land and buy land. Frank was the epitome of small Bulgarian landlords and rich peasants. Chapter 50, The Opening of the Sorbian Railway. Colorful open-top carriages run down the streets, mountains of grain are piled in the warehouses of the wealthy, large color photos of beauties everywhere in entertainment venues, and, the unspeakable folk grief, they have nothing on the table, can't eat enough, and rarely have a meal of white bread for many years. Do you think it is very familiar? Yes, this is the original description of Shanghai Beach. It was adapted by the author. This is the status quo in the Balkans, as it was in Bulgaria 2 years ago. Thanks to the purges during the stamp period, a large number of the wealthy class were swept away, and Ferdinand had enough accumulation to relax the exploitation of the people, which made the common people breathe a sigh of relief. Along the way, Ferdinand discovered that the entertainment venues of the past were mostly closed. Hope shone on the faces of the people. Taxes returned to normal levels, and the mountains that had weighed on them were removed again. The most important thing is that there is no need to repay the usury owed, and the dead will not come to collect the bills. At this point, many of them are grateful to the stamp government. Despite the notoriety of the stamp government, in fact, Its contribution to the country is still the highest of any Bulgarian government. The hills in Bulgaria are ups and downs, and the shapes are changeable. Mountains and hills account for about 64% of the whole territory. Note, this is the topography in 1891, after the Second Balkan War and 2 consecutive defeats in the World War. Bulgaria lost a large plain, and the mountains and hills rose to 79%. In an era when railways are still under construction and cars are still being developed, even if Ferdinand was king, he was no exception. He could only travel by carriage and suffered from bumps. As for why he didn't ride a horse, Ferdinand before Lemieux's crossing was a standard knight, but now Ferdinand would not fall off on horseback. That's a question. Fortunately, Ferdinand's body was in good condition after crossing, and he could withstand it. If Lemieux in his previous life had vomited along the way, as expected by Ferdinand, the industrialization process in various places is not bad. In terms of agriculture, the promotion of new technologies in the plains is rapid, and the progress in most of the mountainous areas is slowed down. Of course, there is one more benefit that Ferdinand didn't notice. Everywhere he passed, a road was born in advance. This ordinary road has become the first connected transportation hub in Bulgaria. It was called Imperial Avenue in history, and it is also dubbed Chama Walkway by the folks, which means, the avenue that the king visited. Now Ferdinand has arrived in the city of Burgas in southeastern Bulgaria. It is located on the west coast of the Black Sea and is the capital of Burgas state, bordering the Burgas Bay of the Black Sea. It is the second largest city in the future economic comprehensive strength of Bulgaria, and the central city on the south bank of the Black Sea in Bulgaria, with an important position in industry and transportation. Its history can be traced back to the ancient Greek period. During the Middle Ages the city began to develop. It is also an important transit hub to the tourist area along the Black Sea coast of Bulgaria, and also has industries such as petroleum, chemical, salt drying, and iron mining. Burgas is now just an ordinary small port. The reason why Ferdinand wanted to come here was mainly because the first trunk line in Bulgaria was open to traffic, from Sofia to Burgas, with a total length of 580 kilometers. Some of these sections, which existed before, were just connected. Ferdinand knew that with the completion of the railway, Burgas would enter a fast-growing fast lane in the future. In parallel time and space, Burgas port undertakes 60% of Bulgaria's national maritime transportation, and the petrochemical industry is developed. The largest oil refinery in the Balkans is located here. At the same time, it is also the fishery center of Bulgaria. It is affected by the oceanic climate and the temperate continental humid climate, which is suitable for the development of agriculture. In addition to the production of grain crops such as wheat, corn, and barley, there are also commercial crops such as grapes, apples, almonds, and cherries. The opening of the railway from Sofia to Burgas is definitely a big event for Bulgaria. The railway goes through several cities and runs east to west in Bulgaria. Ferdinand couldn't remember the original name of this railway, so he took the first word of the two cities and named it directly according to his habit. Thus the nondescript name Sorbian Railway was born. The Sorbian Railway is the main artery of Bulgaria, with extremely high military and economic value. If the various branch lines are connected, the traffic in the entire Bulgaria will be alive. The opening ceremony of the Sorbian Railway was very grand. Ferdinand attended the opening ceremony in Burgas, and Chekhov, on behalf of the government, presided over the opening ceremony in Sofia. The two trains departed from Sofia and Burgas successively, which lasted 12.5 hours, and both reached their destination safely. In fact, in order to ensure the smooth opening to traffic, it has been tested many times before, and now it is just a passing scene. Bulgarian newspapers reported the good news to the public with their front page headlines that day. Ferdinand didn't feel that much. After seeing the speed of the high-speed rail, it was really difficult for him to feel excited about the railway with a speed of less than 50 km per hour. In fact, at the end of the 19th century, the Sorbian Railway could only be described as ordinary. The most common steam train is used, and the only advantage is that the technology is mature and the safety is reliable. Although Ferdinand knew that in the near future, he would be eliminated, and the railway would also be greatly remodeled, and there was nothing he could do. Despite this, it did not affect the status of the Sorbian railway in Bulgaria in the slightest. From now on, Bulgaria can reach from east to west. Economically, the cost of material transportation has been greatly reduced, people's communication has become more convenient, and economic development has been promoted. Militarily, the pressure on national defense has been greatly reduced. In one day, the strength of one regiment can be deployed to most areas of the country. In 3 days, this number can be enlarged to one division. The premise is that the branch lines in various places are also connected, otherwise the logistics supply will definitely have initial problems. Ferdinand still underestimated the impact of the opening of the Sorbian railway. All over the country, people spontaneously organized celebrations. When the common demonstrations in the later world do not exist, it is obstructing public transportation and is illegal. Most of the 3 or 5 friends get together, brag about each other, imagine the future, and discuss the present. There are also businesses taking the opportunity to engage in promotional activities. All in all, Bulgarians are still very conservative at this stage. Not only is life simple, but even in daily behavior, he is very conservative and follows tradition. The spring breeze of democracy and freedom has not yet blown into their hearts. Ferdinand was having a good time when an unexpected visitor interrupted his trip. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.